You just declare that you have all these issues.
Oh, so I didn't know she was. Okay.
See if anybody rolls in.
You hear us, Cindy? Can you hear us, Cindy?
Hello, Cindy.
Who's the volume up on
Oh, that's a good question. We'll call the,
Good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Good. Thank you. Sorry.
good morning.
Good morning.
Citizen Services Committee meeting to order. Commissioners Ross and Engen are here, and Commissioner Peach is on Zoom. And the first item up this morning is the Employees Association. So would you introduce whoever's going to make the presentation? And
Sure. My name is Sarah Jerezik. I have Rachel Eggstead and John Stefani here with me. We appreciate you making time for us this morning. I know you guys are busy, so I'm going to get right to it, make it quick and easy.
just a moment. Commissioner Peach, can you hear?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Must be pretty good. Yeah, that's good.
Good. All right. So first off, the first request we have, as always, is going to be the COLA increase because it applies to every single employee. We have a lot of employees in the county that are maxed out on their steps, and so otherwise they don't get any kind of increase. At this point, we would be asking for a 4% COLA increase. I believe the average of the inflation so far is about 5.2%. But we are asking for 4%. If you look at the handout that John provided all of you, these are the statistics for the national inflation over the past 10 years, and then what the Grand Forks County was able to afford our employees. Overall, from the past 10 years, the difference is that we're technically behind by 3.15%, which is concerning. I know that HR made provided some information at a county commission meeting in June with regards to shortages throughout the county as well. I know that there were a number of departments that had been, their classification or description had been provided, and it was determined that they were 12% behind the market. And additionally, I believe that the salary scale itself was about 5% lagging as well. So that is concerning that we are so far behind. So that's why we are asking for the 4% COLA to try and take care of our employees, to improve morale, make sure we're retaining our employees, which is a huge problem at this point. After that, we would also ask for a step increase. As always, again, taking care of our employees, showing them that we are appreciative of the work that they do and the fact that they continue to stay with the county through employment. We understand that the sheriff's office did receive a substantial increase. We think that was great. I'm sure that that was probably well needed. I know that Rachel and I work with law enforcement every day through our jobs. Law enforcement, it's a dangerous job, it's a scary job, and they deserve to be paid appropriately. So while we respect that, we do have some concerns. We are wondering if the commission's able to tell us what that will result in and how it will impact the other 3/4 of the county employees and how long it's going to impact them. I don't know if that's something you know at this point.
I don't know if we know that at this point.
No, I don't think we do. I think,
Debbie, any comment?
Sure.
Oh,
So the commission did approve an increase for the sheriff's deputies, and that goes into effect July 1. The cost of the county is $150,000 for 6 months. They did it not in a budget year. It wasn't budgeted for. They just did it in the middle of the year. I don't like or recommend doing that, but that was what was done. And then the HR, it came back with the recommendation that all employees would receive an increase as of July 1. There were 39 positions that needed to be regraded. There were 112 positions that were out of market. And then they recommended 5% for everybody else. The cost for 6 months for that was $750,000. It's a huge dollar amount that's not budgeted for. And our levy that we are for our property taxes can only be 60 mils for the general fund. So in 2022, we were at 45.04 mils. And the reason we were lower is because we used cash to bring our levy down. $4.5 million we used. Had we not had that money, we would be at 58.5. So we'd only have 1.5 mils to use before the law would not allow us to levy anything else. So I said, it's not prudent to do this halfway through the year. They did it for the sheriff. Shouldn't have done it for the sheriff, but they did. And now I want to do it at budget time. Let's look and see what we can do for January 1st, 2024. We used CARES dollars for that $150,000, one-time funding for that, not ongoing funding. And we have $1.6 million in CARES dollars remaining. So we've used 150 for the sheriff. So if we used CARES dollars prior to knowing all the requests that we're going to have for 2024, I don't know. And if it costs 900,000 for 6 months, it costs $1.8 million for a whole year. That's more than we have in the CARES fund. So I just recommended that they wait until we get all the requests and budget for the increase.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
the one thing though that I believe that we talked about with human resources was that because CARES dollars are available, and not saying that they're going to continue to be available, and they won't, I realize that, but this, at least that funding that's available, at least would give us an opportunity possibly to increase some of our wages in 2023, and possibly going forward in 2024. We have continued, and as I've said before, we have continued to kick the can down the road for the past few years. And I realize that we've had building projects, we've had projects that needed to be the county courthouse that has needed to be updated. We've got the court or the jail, as well as our program that was in the old courthouse part that needs to be dealt with. But we also need to deal with our staff. We need to put this as a priority. We did talk about this being a priority during these funding meetings, but I think that yes, it's probably not right that we increased our sheriff's wages, our sheriff's deputy wages like we did. But I think we should honestly do something in 2023 yet before we get to the 2024 budget. Yes, does that create a problem going forward? It does, but we can continue to kick this can down the road. We can look at the work that Human Resources has done. We can take into consideration using some of the CARES dollars that we have remaining, and then figuring out how we're going to pay for them. I don't want to use all of our county tax dollars and get us to the max with what we have available, but we have to do something. This can't continue to happen, and we need to get to the market.
We understand that there's not always enough money to go around the way we want it to go around. Those are our financial asks, though, at this time, for purposes of maintaining employees and keeping up employee morale. I know in our office alone, we've had sufficient turnover within I want to say over the past at least 5 years, and I haven't even been there that long, maybe longer.
5.
Yeah. which causes a burden on the employees that do stick around. But so, and maybe this is the military side in me, but there's two things that are important when it comes to employee. It's time and money. If money is something that we can't meet where we need to be, we're going to be also asking for alternative leave for taking. Right now, county employees currently have 2 personal days. If money is not something that can be afforded to us in 2024, we would ask for an increase of personal days, for 2 extra personal days. I think that would raise employee morale. It would give people the opportunity to have a little bit of extra time to do what they want to do without having to use vacation time, sick time, what have you. Additionally, we reached out to Mandy Burbank with the Public Health Department to talk about increasing wellness hours. County employees right now are only able to earn 2 wellness hours a year. We don't get those wellness hours attributed to us until the end of the year to use 4. But we still can't use those until the following year. Mandy provided her annual report to me from 2022 showing the reasons that wellness hours are beneficial to county employees and why increasing them to 8 hours would be ideal. She has received a lot of feedback requesting that county employees be able to earn up to 8 hours. They are earned by engaging in activities that include working out, going to the gym, getting your flu shots, healthy eating, farmers markets, all things that result in a healthier, happier employee, which results in people showing up for work and being often. So we would be asking that the county employee wellness hours be able to be earned up to 8 hours. And I think those are our asks at this point. We tried to be creative, understanding budgetary issues, but I don't know if you guys had anything else you wanted to add.
I guess we're just concerned about the long-term outlook on wages. We're currently down, like Cynthia said. And if we continue going down that road, how many employees are going to stay at their current job? That's our only long-term concern.
I know the commission has said that they want to make the employees a priority. So they would be the first priority in 2024.
I see, yes.
Yeah.
We appreciate
Could you explain the wellness hours? That's something I wasn't familiar with. They can earn 2
Or I misspoke, I apologize.
or, but you're asking maybe to change that to 8. What does that mean? Just another essentially
Time off, yep.
personal day? Time off, I think.
So employees can use those hours to leave early for an hour and use one of their earned wellness hours. Yep.
Okay.
So essentially it would result in up to 8 hours.
That seems to be a benefit that doesn't cost us anything, and maybe we could do little bits like that would be helpful.
And this may help clarify things as well. The wellness hours have the benefit of being able to be used in 1 hour increments. So
Okay.
if you don't happen to have sick leave and you need to go to the dentist, you could use a wellness hour. With the personal days, those are a full day. So they can't use, like 2 additional personal days would not be 16 additional hours, but it would give them 2 additional full days off.
On the wellness hours, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the city accrue greater hours than the county does?
And they also reduce their personal holidays to offset that.
Right, so they substituted a personal holiday in the way they kind of looked at things. When they increased wellness, they decreased a personal holiday.
So how many wellness hours does the city have?
We also have 3 more paid day offs a year than the city does.
Holidays, I mean? Or what?
Yes.
What is the ask on the step increase? How does that work?
That would be anyone who qualifies for a step would get a step, and a step is worth 3% of your salary.
Right.
So you would get it on your seniority date in your position, And that's typically what we've been doing every year to,
I thought that was, isn't that automatic?
no, you have to approve it.
Huh?
It isn't automatic, but we have
I
been
guess we
doing it
voted on it all the time.
recently.
Yeah, you would always have the ability to say no. Previous to my tenure here, there were a few times where there weren't steps given, different things throughout.
And that was
Historical.
because the employees association requested it that way. We want our money January 1, give us a larger COLA and don't give us a step. Well, we ran into problems
Oh,
with
yeah.
that.
Right.
And so, yeah. So
Right.
we stopped doing it.
Because a COLA will affect everybody equally, that's why we always ask for a COLA first. We understand that there are some employees that have maxed out their step. By asking for a step, they wouldn't receive anything and it wouldn't help them out. So we always ask for a COLA first.
Questions? Any
No,
comments?
I like the idea of the wellness hours. I think it gives people a little bit more flexibility, especially parents who might need to take their kids. I get that the county does offer 3 more paid days, but those might be holidays and trying to sneak in a doctor's appointment on those
Does do
days
that.
might be hard, but, and then also just giving them the tools of wellness that help benefits everybody for employees to be.
And I know that the employee association has asked for the possibility of 2 additional personal days. One thing to know about personal days is they're treated just like vacation, meaning if someone leaves during the year, you have to pay them
Amount for that.
something that might possibly be a piece that you could consider is if you were thinking along the lines of personal days, maybe instead for one of those, do Juneteenth as a paid, close the county out for Juneteenth and have that paid. The state has not gone that far yet, but there are many counties and many other areas that are doing it.
A lot of
It's
private industries.
A lot of
are
private
closed on
industry,
Juneteenth.
It's been increasing around the country.
correct. And it's also something that is considered a plus when people are thinking about looking at it at an employer, that it does, last year, you made the proclamation that you acknowledge Juneteenth. It's just not one of our observed holidays. And starting next year, it became a paid holiday that could be something to consider during that.
I believe UND, there's discussion that next year, Juneteenth is going to be a paid holiday.
And I believe when we talked about that is if the state went
Mhm.
with it, then we would do it.
That's-
Yeah, and we
that's
can
great.
revisit it at any time, but
Yeah.
definitely you said that if the state moves that direction.
Yeah.
And
It does send a positive
yeah,
outlook that we're an employer that celebrates everybody.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I would be in support of the Juneteenth holiday, whether the state chooses to observe that or not. I think we should move forward with that for sure in 2024.
Agree. I think everyone's moving in that direction anyway, so might as well do it.
Mr. Ross, anything else?
No, sir. That's it.
I had a good question. Were the wellness hours, are those like paid or like the personal days, are they to be paid out if someone leaves as well?
wellness hours, no. Personal days do not roll over from the end of the year, but because they're available for an employee to use the minute that they're accrued, that's why they have to be paid out. With wellness, you accrue them in 2022 and you can use them in 2023. So that's why they're not paid out.
How many hours are available right now, Ms. Thiel, in wellness?
4,
Okay, thank you. I could see us moving from 4 to 8 as well for that.
Ms. Nelson, any more comments?
I do not have any.
Mr. Ford?
No, sir.
Chief Steele? Anybody else? Commissioner Peach, any other questions or thoughts?
No, I still think we should, because we are moving with our sheriff's wages, sheriff deputy wages, or sheriff's department wages up in July. I think this should be on the agenda at our next commission meeting, and we should do something for the remaining employees yet in 2023, because we do have some one-time funding, but at least we have some one-time funding to work on getting some fairness across the board for all our employees, and making an increase that we do have some one-time funding to help support. It costs thousands to train staff. It costs thousands to advertise for staff, to interview them, to make decisions on who's going to get hired. Right now, we're dealing with upper administration, our social services director. This is not going to be a one-time meeting. This is going to take hours of reviewing applications, doing interviews, making decisions. This is thousands of dollars of somebody who is very well compensated and did an excellent job. But here we go. We're starting, and we continue to have changes in our human services zone, and we'll continue to have changes with our other departments, because they can basically walk out for lunch, do an interview at a different organization in town, whether it's state government, city government, county government. Well, usually county is the one we're at the lower end of the range, and they can easily take a different job, and we're going to spend thousands on the hiring process and the training process. I know before I questioned this in training a staff person in the human services when it was all county paid, and we were talking 18 months of training, which was well over 24,000, and that was probably at a previous director of the human services organization. So it doesn't get any cheaper to hire, to train, and I guess maybe that could be something that we could define. I could work with Ms. Hagan and with our human services staff to come up with a dollar amount of what it costs to train. But that's money we don't get back, and we have to spend. So it's just unfortunate that we continue to do this. So I agree with Mr. Rusted and probably Ms. Hagan with concerns of we've got to do something to improve our wages. Thank you.
And just to clarify, the county does not have anything to do with what the wages would be for anybody at the human service zone. That is all dictated by the state. And it's an easy example to utilize. But I want people who are viewing the meeting to also understand that they're two separate, when it comes to pay, they're two separate entities.
Right, thank you. Any further comments?
I was just gonna say, HR did give me a proposal for a one-time bonus for employees starting July 1 or pay July 1. I did calculate the cost of the proposed one-time bonus. It would be $400,000. And I also gave them the spreadsheet that they could play with and change the dates and the percentages to see. But I don't think a one-time bonus really solves anything, because come January, if I don't have any money to pay you what you are currently being paid, I think that's worse.
And personally, I think that if we could look at, even if we do some modifications, which will be a part of my conversation in my slot, what things could we look at to at least get the ball rolling on the salary proposal that we put together? Because we really haven't talked about, okay, what if it's not July 1st? What if we do things in stages, whatever?
We can
Um,
redesign it.
it can be modified and we can look at it to see how we could possibly get something. I mean, ideally, I'd like to see something start in 23 if we could. And have the balance of it done in 24. If that's not a possibility, at least if we have a plan to know what we can do in 24, that would help. I feel that we do have a commitment to the employees to make sure. So before we get too far down the rabbit hole, because I don't know if they have anything else that they.
And I just wanted to clarify about the one-time bonus, is like, I suggested that if we can't do anything for the remaining employees for 2023, maybe we can offer a retention bonus as a sign of like, hey, we still care, we believe in you, and we're still investing in you. That was the thought process of kind of more of a placeholder for a retention bonus. And because the salary proposal was put on hold or paused until 2024 to review. So that was kind of the idea behind that. It's just more of a placeholder of where everybody feels valued.
And we're just trying to think of creative things. Ultimately, it's going to be up to you, but we're trying to figure out what can we do, because our business is the people business, and we know we have to be fiscally responsible. So we're just trying to. So that's why we partnered with Debbie and said, okay, what if we did this? Would this be a possible idea? What, so that's where we were going with that.
All right, well, thanks for bringing up some of these things that are not just counting dollars out of the budget. If we can do some other things that, along with raising the wages, that's kind of a morale boost, I would think, and I like those ideas too, so.
Thank you. We really appreciate your time. We appreciate your time and that you are prioritizing the employees. I think morale and retention is really important, so we do appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
In a year. It's not much.
It's only 4 more hours. We
I know,
already
but
get 4.
But what I'm saying is. it's gonna do I mean, I know that's what the city does, but they
I
get
don't
to
think
it.
it's immediate, and to ask the correctional center how that played out for them. That's where it's going.
Is that-
Same
is that where the
thing,
problem
it
is?
causes problems.
There's an issue with the correctional center and, well, juvenile detention kids, they can more easily come over here currently, but when they're out there, it'll be more difficult for them to accrue the hours. It would be interesting to know, when I could probably find out over the last couple of years, how many hours have correctional center employees received.
Yeah, you have to earn them.
Yes, but
It's not
how-
given.
Right.
But there's most of the activities, like Michelle was saying, are
Some things
here,
Little tough to
but
track.
you would have to participate in to get to earn hours.
And I think the other thing to keep in mind, when you were talking about, well, do we do 8 or 12? We also have utilize those to, instead of vacation or instead of sick leave. Most people use their wellness hours instead of vacation. And we currently have a lot of people who, towards the end of the year, may have vacation that doesn't get to roll over. So jumping up to 12 may or may not give us the desired effect in the long run.
And I just say this because I'm new and I've seen the wellness hours, because I think you often have to take time out of your personal day too, to accrue those in some ways. Like there is an opportunity to do some things, but then you either have to do that over your lunch or at a different point in time. So I personally just have never pursued them, but others do. And I
I
just
think most
support-
hours are accrued for the farmer's market, because you
Yeah.
can run out,
quickly.
yeah, it's like a break time.
Yeah.
Some of it like working out or just.
Yes, and part of it too is, I think, that personal accountability, if you want to earn it, because not everybody automatically earns them. So one of the things, by increasing wellness hours, that's a good thing, is it's the people who are able to, whether they're participating in They go to the gym, they track that, that gets reported. Mandy does a good job of giving us a variety of things to do. Sometimes I think it's easy to get lost in how busy we are. But I think if we even were able to communicate things out more at our level.
Is there an extensive list? I feel like I've seen it before, but a list of like, these are the things that will accrue the hours.
They have a blog.
Okay.
They have a public health blog and it lists all the different activities and things. That I think is one thing that we need to advertise a little more because, you know, it comes out a couple times from Mandy. But I think it's
Changes
a,
every year. It's not
Who
like the
accounts for
same.
that? HR or the managers?
you have to, if you're gonna participate, you log in to, or notify, however Mandy wants you to notify. Mandy in Public Health manages it. In January, Mandy sends a spreadsheet to payroll and says, Roberta earned 4 hours, Michelle earned 1 hour, Gracie earned 4 hours. And then Leroy puts it in to payroll. So then it's listed in payroll how many hours you have.
This is Tess with Public Health. I can send out the link to the blog if that would be helpful.
And is there
It would be-
a specific person that like comes up with these ideas?
That's all public health.
Oh, okay.
That Mandy runs that
Okay.
wellness area. Yep.
And some events are like standard every year, some change depending on new ideas she may have or whatever
Yeah.
it might be.
They've been doing a lot of online yoga this year. Office yoga where you can log into the webinar. Standard things like flu shots. And they do a wellness in the fall where you can get your blood pressure taken and all these different pieces. And so there's a variety of things.
They had other workshops too.
I think we better get going on the
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Good job.
get behind. Thank you.
So I think one thing that'll be quick and easy in the packet that I gave you, and I emailed this to you, Cynthia. When the employee association was talking about inflation, I went up yesterday so that we pulled the inflation, the consumer price index numbers for 2023. And as of the middle of June, our consumer price index for the Midwest region is 3.7. The consumer price index nationally falls right in line with what the employee association pulled out. That shows it's right at about 5.1. So Midwest, we are currently sitting at 3.7 for the cost of living increase. There's not been any major predictions about what they think this will look like towards the end of the year. And I think if you look at the little graph in the middle, it's a great little visual they did because all of a sudden it spiked. And that's where we were when we were looking at things last year. So
Who does the front? That's a little graph.
That one. I got 3 things here.
yeah, you got the one from the employee association and then the packet that I did has one like with
I see.
this. So that's for your kind of your thought process. I'm always a proponent. I always feel that doing this step, if we can do a step, helps prevent things in the long run. I'm also aware of where we are with our current salaries. So that piece kind of goes along with what the employee association was doing. As far as the comp piece, I'd like to talk about a request first and then talk about the comp. So in the HR department, are at a tipping point where we really need to add an additional person. And if you're the numbers kind of person, typically you have one payroll person for 250 people. We hover about 320 people that get paid through payroll. every payday. Unfortunately, as Debbie's painfully aware, when it's elections, that can go up to even more than 300 additional people, depending on, because we have people we had in June, we have people we have to do for November. Also, the standard is to have an HR person that deals with the benefits, the employees, relations, all those pieces, one for every 100 people. So we're looking at, we're kind of 1 to 1.5 people behind. We also have a lot of things in HR have increased in complexity over the last 5 years. There's a lot more tracking that we have to do, reporting we have to do. I've gotten several emails about, hey, have you updated your new mandatory federal pregnancy policies that have just been approved? And it's like, yep, the policy manual has been, I felt like the ongoing project that, to use Cindy's words, the can keeps getting kicked down the road because we have all the other things that are coming up. So what I would request would be a position that would be the equivalent of Leroy's payroll position. That position would fully cross-train to do payroll. Currently, our backup for payroll is Colleen. Luckily, we haven't had to use her much recently. However, at any point in time, when you have one individual who's fully trained to do payroll, and to do it, you need to be in the system and do it, be able to do things often, or you kind of lose that expertise. It's not something where Leroy could just say, okay, Michelle, here. We lucked out right at when shortly after Leroy had started, within his first year, he had to be out for a period of time for a medical leave. And luckily, Colleen was able to jump in and work through payroll. Also, we need to, when I first was hired, one of the things that was discussed was what HR could look like, how it could be kind of that strategic partner. So we could work with other departments, work with department heads, do a lot of those types of things, and training and development. So at this point, when we look at the workload, the first page is just my summary. The next page is the deans for all the departments. This is just one little snapshot of one part of our job. This is how many hires and how many terminations we've had from 2019 through 2 days ago. And when you look at these numbers, you can see that they're like, we had 85 new hires last year.
We already had 51 this year.
We have 51 this year. This doesn't even account for, we didn't even have, nothing in here would have any election people, because to me, that's like they're not regular long-term employees. With the terminations, yeah, last year we had 87 terminations. They were for a variety of reasons. But when you think about onboarding and offboarding those people, then you have to think about how much it takes to get the people on, to recruitment and all of those pieces. Last year, rather than having an additional person, I requested to be able to implement HireClick. Roberta and I do believe that HireClick has helped us get more visibility, and it has helped us get a wider variety of applicants. Social services is listed on these pieces because even though they're state employees and their compensation, or they're county employees, but their compensation is managed by the state, their HR functions are managed at our level. And we have to partner with state HR. So we are managing two totally different policy manuals and sets of policies. And a lot of people don't realize that piece. So if we were able to add an additional staff member, it would be nice to be able to do it at the beginning of 2024, even though we would greatly love to be able to get somebody in 2023 if that was a possibility. We're also realistic and we know that it would end up happening at our absolute busiest time of the year. And we would have a brand new employee during open enrollment. And open enrollment for us starts in September because there's all this planning and doing all of those pieces. And our life, our life is on supercharge from September through the end of January. So
You don't want to scare anybody away, just.
right, I'd rather they didn't come in and go, oh my goodness, and
It would be great to have that extra set of hands, but
but we're also realistic that, you
you know,
know,
paying somebody to sit there because we wouldn't have the time to invest.
right.
So,
Question.
Okay, so if we give you one more person, that would give you 4 counting Leroy, right? How big is the HR department in Cass and Burley counties? How many HR people do they have in those 2?
Their structures are different than ours. I don't know because they do a lot of things where they have people identified in specific departments that are the HR point of contact.
I did contact Cass and they have 2.5 people and they have twice as many employees. I have no idea how they do it, but
Yeah, and they don't do, one of the things they don't do is their department does not handle, they don't have the partnership with their human service zone. They
but they have employees, they do pay their.
they pay them, yep, they pay them.
is payroll part of their HR
Yes.
department then
Yep.
too?
Payroll is part of their HR. Yeah. And they have a lot more where there's a point of contact that is at that department level that's doing some of the functions that we're doing.
Well, their
And
correctional center is under the sheriff too, so
right,
they're kind of hands-on on
So,
that.
their correctional center is under their sheriff.
Oh.
So their involvement from the HR perspective with the sheriff's department is much less intensive than our involvement with the correctional center.
I was wondering where that position would be located.
So if there are a couple of different options, one would be that if we were to stay in the location that we're in, that person would go into the office that Roberta has been utilizing, and Roberta would continue to work remotely with coming into the office and working out of my office. Also, I've been in contact with Mr. Ford and Kari. There's potential that there's space on the 5th floor where we could do something up there. So I'll let him.
Yeah, I'll just real quick, I did talk to Ms. Thiel yesterday, because I knew she was gonna be asking for an additional person, and I asked the same question Ms. Nelson did. There is, we are, Northeast Human Services, as you know, is vacating just about the entire 5th floor, 5th floor North Tower. EM is in there currently. Part of the lease negotiation is the DD wants to stay, but they will be consolidated to one side where right now they're scattered. So there would be plenty of space, office space, if the commission and HR wanted to move up there. Right now, we're kind of holding off on doing anything permanently until the commission decides what they want to do with that space, but I think it would be a good space for HR.
So there would be costs involved in that too, right? So the position of $90,000 that we're gonna take out of our 2024 budget allotment. And we're getting close to that 60 mils. Now we're gonna add another person here, and there is another request for another person you'll hear later today.
What was, Ms. Leon, do you remember what it cost was to get that space remodeled for EM? I don't know what it was.
I think we had it budgeted at just under 30,000. To management. I don't know if that ended up going over.
Was maybe just a hair under, if my memory doesn't fail me.
We also will be looking at some additional costs for the PSAP move at some point. Sure.
Yes, so.
Co-shared by the city, but that's
That
another
is
piece of their
correct.
move that we just haven't seen yet.
Yeah, and it is no deal to like that I would give up my office either. Because even the times that I come in, most of it's because we have working meetings. And we sit in her office because she has the conference table and go back and forth and brainstorm. So I don't feel like there'd be something taken from me if we added another person because it's basically a file room right now. Don't feel bad for me, that's all I'm saying.
So that was, you know, the request for an additional person. Roberta and I are both in exempt positions, so we don't, you know, we understand not qualifying for overtime. We also take calls at all hours from all departments on all kinds of different days. So just so you know, I mean, 50-hour weeks is not unusual. And we've been able to make it work. We are very lucky with the fact that we are at the point where they can call, somebody can call. Well, sometimes it's the state's attorney that calls and someone's on vacation and she answered the call. But it's a lot. There's a lot that's going on. And yeah, I understand there are some counties that have less people in their department. They also don't do all the same functions. And I would like to prevent us from ever having to defend another EEO claim that we had to do that took immense amounts of time and luckily ended in our favor. And to be able to do that, we've got to have the bandwidth to be able to prevent things and not just react to things after. So, and then I don't know if you have any other questions regarding that while you contemplate what that might look like, so.
Commissioner Peach, any questions?
Maybe on mute.
No, I have no questions at this point, but I would support this position because as more expectations come both from the state and from the federal government, it is a huge amount of work. We've got four HR staff in our organization and we have about 500 staff. So, and it's just because of the expectations of more documentation and more paperwork. Thank you.
Mr. Hagan, anything? Mr. Ross? Nope. Anybody else? Other final comments?
And then when we talk about the compensation project, these are the same documents that you had at the other meeting. What I would like to know is, do you want to just look at what's currently been presented and determine in 2024 if it could be done? Do you want us to look at some additional pieces? If there was any way to get something before the end of the year, that would be ideal. I also know that it might not be a possibility. But if there are pieces that you would like us to look at where we could possibly do things like with the out of market, maybe if we could get a 6% increase now and a 6% increase in the beginning of 2024. We haven't fleshed those types of things out because neither Roberta nor I know what direction you'd like us to look at. And we also don't know, like, is there a dollar number target that we should shoot for?
Design around.
Yeah, design around, I don't know. I do know that, like I said before, we do have positions that are pretty far out of whack and getting harder to recruit for. And I know that we have positions that need to be regraded because they don't meet what they need to meet for 2023. So I don't know what additional conversation or questions you guys have.
Mr. Ross.
Okay, I think we've said this in the past, and I just want to reiterate that I think we want to get through the budget cycle here first to see what kind of money we have left before we give you any direction on what we want to do. So.
Okay.
Okay.
That's, yeah, that helps to know what I need to invest my time in right at this moment. Because we are trying to get a little bit of vacation in July for the HR department, so.
Okay, all right. All right, thank you. Are we on time now?
Okay, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
The one thing that I would like to add to the agenda, at 10:40, there was a vacancy. I'd like to add the director of administration on that, add that.
Okay. We'll have the sheriff folks are here. Why don't you do that, and then we'll take a break after that for a few minutes if we can.
Nope. Over here.
We're yelling no matter where we're at, because they're so far away, right?
I've got one.
Explanation of their increases or change in the budget.
That one, Michelle.
For anything.
Still talking around. There's.
What to kick it off for you guys?
Well, I'll start. All right. Thanks for having us and taking the time. I understand that budgets are always fun. This year might be a little more interesting. And I'm guessing that you've had time to review ours. It was challenging this year because I was really anticipating finally being able to add outside of a part-time individual to our staff, which we did add, which is helping a lot. Some transport personnel, which would help significantly. But realizing with obviously the salary adjustment that the commission made for the sheriff's office, along with other expenditures and the amount of money that's not coming in, I did not include that into our request this year. I'm really trying to prioritize for your information, and I understand that you guys have a tough year ahead of you. So the first thing that you'll see at the very top of our justification sheet, I believe you guys are looking at something like this, okay, is to reclassify a deputy sheriff position to a sergeant position. And I could get very long-winded on this, but what we've realized over the last 4+ years is that for some of you that weren't here, when I took over, we decreased the amount of sergeants from, it was at one time 7, down to 4. So what we've realized right now is that the span of control is exceeding itself in a few positions. And Chief Deputy Stromberg has worked to try to manage a lot of tasks himself, and he's been able to do it, let's say. But reality is really set in amongst not just him, but the other 2 day shift sergeants that we really do need that extra sergeant. The span of control for our current sergeants is just getting too big. They have a lot of responsibilities, and it's a lot of bodies to keep track of. So with that's one of my priorities this year. That sergeant would fill an administrative training, scheduling, civil transport role, which consumes a lot of time between the chief deputy and the other 2 day shift sergeants. It is definitely a need that we've looked at for a while. Along with that, if you recall last year, it was probably, I can't remember if it was around July or August, but I requested to hire a backfill spot for a deputy that was being deployed, and the commission granted that to us. So that is in our budget. I would also like to retain that position that we are allowed to hire for backfill. That'd be at a grade 10-1. Where they're at, I guess. I don't know why it says 10-1, but obviously that's where most people are coming in without experience. So I'd like to retain that backfill spot. That would put us at 35 full-time personnel, 1 part-time. And we currently have 34 in 1. I'm not asking to add an extra position with the sergeant spot. We would promote that from within. That would be an additional add to the agency. That wouldn't put us up to 37. We'd stay at the 35 plus 1. So that's what I'm looking at staff wise. Along with that, I'm going to skip down to another item that I have been working with Miss Thiel on a little bit. She's been working with Miss Olson as well regarding transferring our employee retirement for law enforcement from the defined benefit plan to the public safety plan. And what that is it would allow law enforcement officers to retire at the rule of 85 or the age of, help me out, is it 55?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
No.
55 is full retirement, early retirement, or 55 is early retirement now. It would be 50 for early retirement with the new plan. And it would be 55 with the new plan for full retirement.
So it would bring down the retirement age for law enforcement. We're celebrating a deputy today. You haven't seen the emails twice yet, but Chris Smith is retiring after 28 plus years of service. So
Do we not have any idea on the cost on this?
well, it's percentages. So I don't know if it's been factored out, but the overall increase in contribution, I believe, is about 5%.
Yeah.
So it would be a 5% per cost increase. Along with that, I mean, obviously, there's options, right? Like we're pretty fortunate right now that the county contributes a lot to our retirement, and I'm not complaining about that at all. That is, we're very fortunate to have that. Bumping up, adding that extra 5%, it is listed as employer responsibility. Obviously, we'd prefer it to stay at our contribution at 2%. If that wasn't realistic and we had to increase another % or something, I mean, I'm sure that conversations can be had and we would consider something like that if it wasn't reasonable or realistic.
That's
So
pretty much parallel with state of Minnesota, isn't it? 55?
I don't know, Bob.
I think so.
I'm not sure.
And
The
the,
city participates.
yeah, the city,
12% roughly,
the city,
total,
Be about 17% on
Yeah.
17?
with what you currently contribute. It would go from about 12 to about 17. So a little higher contribution.
and this is parallel to, the city has their PD and their fire on the public safety plan. The public safety plan would cover 2 groups of employees at the county. It would cover the deputies and it would cover the correctional officers, not the youth assessment center, because they don't go through CO basic. They don't, no, they're not certified correctional officers when they're youth assessment.
No.
So, yeah, sorry. But it would cover the correctional center, but because with the youth assessment center now, they can do shelter care, or they can do attending care, or they can do juvenile detention. They don't meet that qualification.
And actually, at one point in time. Michelle will remember. I'll speak up so you can hear. But anyway, we lost 4 deputies at one point because of the retirement in Minnesota, which was pretty good. I mean, it was really good. And 55 was retirement age, so.
So traditionally, what we do see, if we see it in our agency, is between that 5 to 8, 9 year mark of years of service. If somebody is considering leaving, well, it would be earlier than that, but that 5 to 8 year mark is kind of like the sweet spot where if they're gonna leave, it's gonna be, that's when they've worked long enough where they're like, oh, I can get more contribution to retirement here. They pay more into my insurance, like UND, right? That's usually the time frame that they look at it. If we can retain them past that 8 year mark, we're usually good. So we had, from what I can recall, recently just one in the last few years that did that. That was here for about 6 years, I believe. But besides that, we haven't really seen it. We are always obviously looking to have better options. So.
And no matter what, if you didn't make this change, then all the sheriff's deputies and correctional officers would be handled the same as all the rest of the employees. And that means the defined benefit will not be offered to new hires after a specific date. And it kind of goes back and forth a little bit as to how long it will take first to get their new defined contribution plans in place. So this would preserve, and we would be able to have new hires for the sheriff's department and correctional officers. They would first start in the new plan, and then once they become certified correctional officers, then they can be moved into this defined benefit plan.
Just for clarification, I'm just proposing this for the sheriff's office. I'm not here on behalf of the jail.
Right.
So if they're not
Right.
asking for it, I'm not picking.
And the thing that we need, and I get where he's coming from, but we also have to, part of the HR role is to make sure that we're covering all our bases. And because this is public safety and certified correctional officers. Qualified. I don't know that we can,
5, right?
and I don't know that we could not include that. I don't believe that we could say it's only for deputies and not for correctional officers.
Yeah, I also think the city still does a 50-50 split for all their retirement. Contribution.
They do have a higher contribution.
Yes.
In place.
Michelle, do you know how many other departments in law enforcement or corrections in the state of North Dakota are under this defined?
What I can tell you is when Andy and I first started having this conversation, the HR collaborative, which is all the county HR people, they were asking, and it looked like there are many that are going to switch to this that weren't on it before. So I don't know what the percentage is, but I can find out if you want that number.
But it's a good deal. I mean, it really is. I mean, it's something I wish I would have had, but anyway.
So one of the last sheriff's meetings I attended was, or I shouldn't say that, it was a legislative call that we had during the session. And a lot of sheriff's offices were switching to this. They're proposing it. I will obviously annotate that most of them are smaller agencies as well, but there were a few that were about our size. So it is.
And this one is kind of time sensitive because at different points in time, it's better to do it before they put the new plan into place. So
Yeah, if you could find that out and then also find out what the cost for the county.
So Ms. Steele did do a lot of work on this already and did find out like the timeline of if the county was gonna go with it, like your time frame starts here to enact it, January 1, you'd have to have this process done by October 1st. So that is all lined out. If this was something that the commission did want to move forward with, I believe the budget would be finalized by the time frame that we'd be looking at. I think it was like October. And I hope that if it did go forward, that we could enact it January 1. The state did pass legislation that put all state entities on this plan. So that was done. It was being looked at for just BCI, and then they transitioned it to game and fish and other sworn officers.
And that's kind of the same thought process behind sheriff's deputies and correctional officers. Because when you do just one group, it adds the potential for more discrimination risk. So
Sheriff Schneider,
Yes.
I do have a question, because I know last year, this year we have done some increases in, with sheriff's deputy wages. How is it going with the vehicles? We moved away from the vehicles and we're leasing them. There is supposedly going to be a cost savings. Has that has that happened? Or I'm just curious about the leasing.
Speech, I would advise you to stay tuned until page 2. We'll get there. We're only on line 3 right now.
Okay,
So,
thank
we'll-
you.
We'll get there in a little bit. Pending any other questions, I guess we'll move forward. If there's anything else on it.
Today, so let's see. If
Yep. Okay. So I'll skip back. I'll go back up. Education and training line, we're looking to increase that. We've done a fantastic job of getting deputies and individuals to local training, in-state training, some out-of-state. But what we're seeing the need for now is more specialized training, specialized leadership training, specialized investigations training. So we're looking to send a couple guys to some specialized trainings next year. That's why that increases there. Along with that would come the next line for travel training. Obviously, airfare is going up along with hotels, et cetera. So we're looking for an increase to offset some of the issues we've ran into there. The next ones, I'll just skip their decreases. Going down to service agreements. People want more money to operate their equipment. Everything listed on there, under there, I would consider essential. One that will be, is currently being discussed. Stay tuned. Miss Peach is probably aware of it as well as the alert and sentinel contribution service agreement. Our dispatch center is working on some different systems. They're evaluating several. Chief Deputy Stromberg sat in on a presentation of one a week and a half ago, I believe. Pretty impressive, and stay tuned. I think something will be coming forward on that, but for the time being, we will still need that service. If we don't have alert sentinel, we can't function. That runs our computers. So live scan is the fingerprint machine that we have an agreement with the city that we share. Beast is an evidence system. Lexapol handles all of our policies. They keep us up to speed with all Supreme Court and state legislative or state rulings as well. If it wasn't for that, we would have a 3-ring binder and have to update policies, reviewing Supreme Court decisions weekly, and I'm sure Dave would love to do that. So Bob went to that many years ago, and it's been a huge blessing. Leads Online is how we catch a lot of criminals in our community. It monitors all the pawn shops, and we can enter all of our items that are stolen in there, and we get hits when it's pawned off. So that's what all of those are. Radio maintenance agreement, we're looking at a decrease there. We'll skip down to police supplies, an increase of about $5,000. It's the cost of ammunition, right? With unfortunately, that's more of a worldwide problem. When the United States assists in wars, cost of ammunition goes up and it's harder to get. So that's what we're looking at there. Vehicle cost miscellaneous, just upfitting the vehicles is going up a little bit. The shooting range, we've been nursing along a lawnmower that has been out there since Sergeant Ron Gibbons worked at the agency. He was the first retirement ever from the sheriff's office, if that's any clue. And we're looking to replace that out before we're stuck in a situation where it breaks permanently and now we're asking for money.
Is that the only place it's used?
That's the only place it's used.
How big is the area?
It's about a 3-hour mow. Yeah, 2.5, 3 hour. We're talking, it's about 3 acres.
Almost.
I'd say it's about 3-4 acres.
We have a mower for half that cost, and we about 3 hours on Farmstead. I'm just wondering if you can't get one for less than $6,000.
Right, so the issue is, there's a portion of the range out to, I'd say about 50 yards that can be managed by like a normal mower, Cub Cadet, your average John Deere, whatever. The rest of it is quite challenging and
Land or what?
Yep.
Okay.
could go for holes, just a little more rough terrain that we can try.
You should be able to take care of the pocket
I
gophers.
was gonna say, just
Not
target
the
practice.
way they shoot. Oh.
There's this crazy.
They have a budget increase in ammunition.
Yeah, that's the ammunition increase, yeah. But yeah, that's where that's coming from. We do need more of a commercial or industrial grade mower. It's not all based off of a lawnmower for that. We do have the surplus semi trailer that we've turned into our house out there now that we haven't provided any upgrades to yet besides getting it weighed in. So we're looking to finally follow through on some of those upgrades as well. So moving back to furniture and equipment, that's just a guess right now. That's regarding the ARPA money
Yeah,
or COVID, whatever.
the COVID money, yeah.
So we've had some COVID money that we've transferred like 4 different times to different projects. We were given the money for transports with the jail. Well, then the state pended all the transports, so we didn't need the money for that. So I've transferred it a few different times for different projects. And the last one that they awarded us the money for is to reconfigure the support staff workstation up front. Sometimes some of them need a little more privacy, whether it's calling jails or whatever. That's all being covered under the grant. This is just simply a buffer, I would say, in case the grant does not cover all of the cost. So honestly, if that's something that we can't consider, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. The next one, police equipment, that is just something that Michelle puts in as a courtesy for you every year to see what we're spending money on for our vehicles. Mainly it's all of our vehicle stuff. So electronics, none of that, I think it's cheaper. Going to page 2, special ops, we are looking at.
One page.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, so special operations, we're looking to start upgrading some equipment. We're not keeping pace with the police department upgrading some of their equipment on some special operations teams. So we're hoping that this subtle bump will be able to allow us to phase in some new equipment over the next few years. The next one, law enforcement automation. I'll let Michelle and Dave talk about that quickly.
Okay, so we had a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting yesterday with.
Evelyn can come up too if she
Yeah.
wants for this.
I'm good.
Okay.
So Evelyn was in the meeting as well. So we have to upgrade our server that we have our evidence on, our in-car video systems and our body worn cams.
We're being required to keep more videos for longer time frame, and we got no space.
For out. So it looks like, so I put in the budget an extra 35,000, but it's gonna be around 60. So the 35,000 that's in here under LE automation, I would like to increase that more, but we could also try to do it in capital improvements next year too, because this is for next year. And we're looking at,
So we do have some options. What Michelle did is she looked at what we need versus what we should probably have for the future. And so what we need would be the 37.6. We're really hoping to work with our IT department on that to maybe do a cost share or something. But if we did want to go for the larger system, that is something that we could potentially attempt to request next year when capital improvements came out.
We had that issue quite a few years ago too, didn't we, where the server was too small or we couldn't put any more info into it.
and currently we have 2 16 terabyte servers and we're looking at a 64 terabyte. They gave us MSRP of 35,000, so I know it's gonna be less. But we really should be going to 96 terabyte. estimate it's by 2033, it'll be about 84 terabyte that we need. So they're gonna give us, I want to get another price on the 96 to see if that could actually be 35, not MSRP price.
Oh, on this topic, I know we've visited a little bit, not much recently. Their storage for evidence has a direct impact on our office because we have to obtain that evidence, find a mechanism for storage in our office, copy it and send it out in discovery.
Sure.
And so we've had a lot of conversations about this current system kind of becoming obsolete or whatever. One funding potential is our office does have some asset forfeiture funds. And obviously we couldn't foot the bill of something like this, but naturally those funds are set aside to assist our office. And so I don't know the specifics of what you guys are looking at. We haven't chatted about it for some time, but if it's something that could be a cost savings for us or a manpower savings for us, we would be willing to contribute some of our asset forfeiture funds so long as the commission bless that expenditure as well. So that's just something to kind of put it out there. You know, we'd obviously have to talk about the specifics of what system we're looking at and things like that, but it certainly has a direct impact on the work in our office as well.
Yeah, so Ms. Wamstead, this right here, to my understanding, is just purely storage. It's not a new company or anything like that. On that note, I did have a conversation with a company, just kind of a cold call. They're local, that is currently exploring potential options for storage for us. I don't know what the cost would be, but we are looking into other avenues for storage. It's not one way, so.
And I know like some of the other law enforcement agencies are moving to more of a cloud-based storage. That's where it really could potentially help on our end, because depending on the system that's utilized, it could eliminate our need to copy those records, burn them on a disk or thumb drive or a separate hard drive and send them out to defense counsel. That's very costly. A lot of the new systems that are cloud-based will allow a prosecutor's office to use that same storage that the law enforcement agency has and flip it around in a link to defense counsel. So we can send them evidence in an email with a link on it, which saves us a ton of money. Thumb drives, discs, you name it, get to be extremely expensive.
If I'm wrong, but currently the UEMS, which is the Unified Endpoint Management and Security, we're going to switch to the UDE, which is Unified Digital Evidence and a Redaction Server is what we're looking at, correct? So there's licensing for both in-car videos and for body-worn cams. I've already paid for the in-car video for 3 years. Body-worn licensing would be $5,100. That's actually MSRP, so it's going to be lower, and that's every year. And then in the meeting yesterday, we only need one redaction server, which is $4,000. And then the tech support for all the data transfer and UDE setup is about $15,000 because it's about 5 days to do that. And then the 64 terabyte server.
Can you give them the approximate cost for the cloud as she was talking about, the difference?
Well, I remember the cloud was for one car, which was 2 cameras in one car. For the on-prem server, it was $750. For the cloud, it was $2,200. That's just one car.
That's why it's
Amazon.
incredibly expensive.
It's silly expensive.
This company I spoke to is looking at a cloud option for us. Again, I have no idea what the cost is. Let's see. Okay.
Anything, any other questions?
So
No.
if I took the salaries for 2024 for deputies and took it times 5%, it would be $123,000, and that would be the cost spent for the additional retirement. If you said it's a 5% more. cost.
Okay.
So I think to this 105, we need to add the 123. And that's only for the sheriff, not the correctional center. And then we need about $100,000 for the additional deputy to put that in. So that's another 223 to this 100.
And we've already put money into the sheriff's department as of July of 2023.
Yes.
Saturday.
So that needs
So
to
you're aware
be
where we're at
right.
with things here.
The last.
And
the
we
last
aren't,
point that-
aren't willing to say anything about other employees throughout our organization until after we get the budget. So we're pushing the can down the road again.
The last point that we'll cover on here is the much awaited vehicle conversation. We are still, remember, we're still very new in the enterprise program. Cost savings, we have seen a lot of cost savings by being able to switch out the investigator vehicles. Those were eating up a lot of maintenance costs on us last year. So we've upgraded all of those. That's been a significant savings. I will let Chief Deputy Stromberg address that more.
So there is a increase ask of 49,000. Based on the projections that were given to us when we were in talks with Enterprise, we're right within those projections. We're right on the spot where we need to be. So we're dealing with a lot of projections and market, and I think we're doing pretty good. We actually have 9 vehicles on order, and we haven't paid for any of them because they're not here yet. So we're still waiting for those vehicles to come. That budget monies is then sitting in our budget, not being spent to date. So that could give us options at the end of the year to apply the unspent budget funds towards either paying off cars that are on leases or paying down leases, or however we want to do that to save money in the long run. So while it is still new, and it's still sometimes I get a little concerned on wait times for cars, which we have no control over. We're right in the projection where Enterprise said we would be. As we know, I think when they presented that to you guys was, it is going to go up and down. It's not every year going to be showing the savings. It's over a 10-year supposed to be around $1 million savings. But based on the projections so far and the projections they gave us and what is happening so far, even with this $49,000 increase, we are right on track where they said we would be. So the 49,000 isn't so much as a surprise to me, looking at the overall projection. That's right where we thought we would have to be. And that basically would be getting us an additional 6 cars next year for 49 grand. So, which we would have never been able to do on current vehicle pricing at all. 49 grand might have got us 1 vehicle. So,
and just one reminder on the vehicle line, and Ms. Hagan, you weren't here, so you wouldn't know, but we did agree for 2023 to keep the same vehicle budget as we had in 2022. So we had 0 increase on cost last year when the cost of vehicles went up 10 to 12%. So we did hold that last year. I mean, I think that did help us out a little bit for this year. So
why the delay? Why aren't the cars here this year?
Same reason you can't find them in a sales lot.
They're Tahoes, right?
They are Tahoes. Yeah, GM is all over the place. Initially, I was told there would be 4 Tahoes here, 5 Tahoes here in April. They just landed 2 weeks ago in Des Moines, Iowa. We're working to get them up to our bidder, and that just, all of that stuff just takes time, and the auto dealer, or excuse me, the auto manufacturers are just all over the place. Ford is canceling somewhere up to 70% of their government orders every quarter. So it's just crazy what's happening with government fleet.
I think we're fortunate that we're actually getting them in July. It's I didn't anticipate them being here, just the way that, I mean, you drive around any parking lot that's any car dealership and there's nothing there. So I'm glad that we're actually getting vehicles. It's a surprise.
I looked at Rydell's. I mean, when you look at the Chevrolets that are all parked in the Honda lot on the south end, pickup after pickup, brand new.
Yeah, we're
Tons
charged.
of them.
Enterprise advised that if we wanted guaranteed cars sooner, we should order off the retail line. Well, we can't.
That's.
We need government pricing,
Yeah.
we need government specs.
Yeah.
But they said, well, if you want your cars sooner and you want them now.
All catching up now, there are lots of getting.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
Mr. Chair, I do have a
Yes.
question of the Sheriff Department. I know in recent years, Sheriff Schneider and probably discussions with Michelle at the Sheriff's Department, we have talked about trying to find grant funding to support helmets. Obviously, helmets save lives. I know it's a very expensive, an expensive option to have available for our sheriff's deputies, but are we seeing any change or movement forward in supporting helmets, because that saves lives?
So we've applied for a few grants. Unfortunately, we haven't had them awarded. We actually have deputies that are purchasing their own helmets. And some are getting hand-me-down helmets off of like the regional bomb and regional SWAT team when they decommission them. So to answer your question, no, we haven't, but we're definitely trying to do what we can in that department.
Right, and that needs to be a concern of the county and the commission. I know that we're doing the best we can to put in better increases with our sheriff's department, but we really need to think about the health and safety of our deputies as well. Not to say that we can afford it in the budget, but we certainly could look for some support funding or grant funding to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Peach. Yeah, Miss Olson and myself and other deputies continue to look for and apply for grant opportunities for helmets. So we'll continue to do that.
Thank you.
Okay, we're a little behind, so I think we need to move on to IT. So we'll be.
I don't have anything else unless you.
Michelle was just going back to vehicles. Michelle was just pointing out we have some projections of possible sale of assets in the amount of around $70,000. So that would be applied. Show savings.
That's for the 49,000.
Those are all based off of projections, right? You guys could have used vehicles.
Michelle.
Can't afford it.
That's from me yelling at her all these years.
We'll still yell. We figured it'd be a great retirement gift.
Yes.
Not for another 15 years though.
Yeah.
The hearing is so bad.
All right, thank you for your time.
All right.
I know, I'm such a jerk.
Well, everyone's been waiting there. I guess, yeah, let's do that, and then we'll take administration's time for a quick break.
Study director, demonstrations. Job description.
You got that text I sent you last night.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, probably.
Yes, Cindy?
I do have a question. When a comment was made recently about making an administrator in our Tom's shop, I have concerns about that because we need to talk about legal issues and we need to discuss that. Also, I was told the priority was going to be for staff in this funding, and that doesn't seem to be the case, which I'm not very happy with. But I think we need to think about, I agree that our first funding should be looking at both an additional staff person in HR and an additional staff person in IT. We did add Gracie's position in 2022. I think that anything with the administrative or a director position needs to be put on hold because we need to deal with staff, not a staff.
Okay. I know that's gonna come up though in the administration discussion. I was having a little trouble understanding what you were saying at the beginning of this. Is what you're saying you prefer to see that put on hold?
I want to see that put on hold because we need to study that and discuss it and look at legal issues. And I will be more than happy to deal with HR and Mr. Ford on that before we even have a discussion, because there's some legal issues that have to be looked at.
Okay. Like, well, everybody's walking out, so.
Yeah, I know, taking break.
Hang
I
in there.
understand.
All right, we'll be back.
Thank you.
Get so close. Get so close. I didn't bring anything or anyone, because I figured they have my budget. So, I don't know, I maybe should have, I saw him counting out stuff.
Morning. Sorry for the delay, but you've apparently chased a couple away, so we have to wait.
I think probably everyone needed a rest break.
Don't mind me snacking.
You just grab a sweater. Yeah, honestly. Okay. Light sweater.
He's gotta turn the air on here, Tom.
I'm with you, Tom, what she's saying.
I know,
I'm just thinking, I keep my hair up so I won't sweat and.
Yep.
I'm gonna go get my blanket
Gracie
too.
puts her coat on, I take mine off.
I'm gonna get my blanket as well.
Oh,
When I was down at the finance and tax office, it was so cute.
That, your guys' coffee room is awful.
Yeah.
Get up and move.
So Bill is at 10:15. Bill, he's at 10:15. So.
I don't know how long it's.
We're getting wait lists.
You guys see that 11.
Yeah. Cause I forgot.
Oh, my.
Just rubber stamp all of IT.
They've already seen.
All I see is you take it out of your budget?
No
Yeah.
corrections.
No, I think
You got corrections.
That's not me. I didn't bring a phone, so.
So I
that's-
think this.
Yeah.
Mr. Peach, you still there? Commissioner Peach, are you with us still? What, a minute ago?
Yes, I am. I
There
am.
you go. Okay, can we start?
I am ready.
Go ahead.
Debbie's
Okay.
Oh, Debbie's not back either.
And stand in the hall.
Being this the first time I'm in this meeting situation, I'm not sure what you would like me to tell you first. I can tell you budget wise why I did my numbers. I don't know if you're ready for that.
And that's what we're trying to understand. If there's a budget increase, that's why. And it's hard to pick all of that out of the 8 pages of stuff we got.
Yes.
But it helps when Debbie's in here, so.
We'll wait for Debbie.
Let's wait for Debbie. That's all.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah, she's great.
She's out in the hallway talking to me. Oh, watch those hairpin turns now, girl.
What was that?
Watch those hairpin turns.
I got it.
Zoom.
Take it around 2 wheels.
Yeah.
Come around the corner. Sorry. Like, oh, Evelyn's not even here. Oh, yeah, she is.
She's been here. She's been here.
You're in the back. All right, I guess everyone's back and we can go ahead and start.
So just before she starts, if you go to page 12 in your expenses, so there's 2 packets,
The
one
expenses
revenue,
one?
one expenses, go to page 12 and you will see your budget.
Page 12
Page
expenses.
12. Okay, there it is.
All right,
How far down is that one?
That's for whole bunch.
The entire page.
All this is, okay, yeah, right.
I really only have a small number of changes. I expect an increase in our Office 365 licensing cost. I don't know that increase yet, but I did up that by $5,000 for the year. It may come in at a lesser increase, but that's what I budgeted for. The service agreements, that is $5,150 increase. That is mainly just looking at all of the service agreements over the last 2 years, the slight increase year to year. Can be as little as 3%, somewhere as high as 16%. So that's about a 5,000 increase. Furniture and equipment is my biggest increase. That's increased by $8,000. That is specific to one piece of equipment we used on 5th floor for emergency management to move in. It was targeted for another spot in our network. And so we used it because we needed it. You can't get them quickly. So that switch we use upstairs, and we'll leave it there because we intend to have a presence on 5th floor, so we'll need to use it there. And I just need to replace that for where it's going. Miscellaneous, I took down by $2,500. Other than that, I mean, those are really my only increases.
The big thing would be the person.
The person is the bigger thing. If I'm not looking at this, I don't have to wear my glasses, look goofy. The person. Right now, IT keeps up. They keep up. We aren't doing much proactively. We aren't doing a lot of things we need to be doing. I have implemented quite a few different things in the way of security, documentation, everything. We are, over the next 4 to 5 years, most of our network will get replaced. We will overpay for that service if we have to do it all through vendors. We don't have network knowledge in our wheelhouse. I am training in it, getting up to speed as fast as I can. The other staff members don't have it. They don't have that education. They don't want that education. They don't want to become network people. We will.
Would that position be the same grade though, but they would have a different?
That position would be the same, yes. I do intend to raise one of my positions. I believe that was in my notes, but where they would use about half of their time for system administration. They're already doing it. They deserve the position, the increase, everything. So I would still end up with 3 of the same title. They would all be the same. And then I would have the one that is the system administrator.
Do we have a grade on that position? Because I was not aware of that.
It hasn't been graded yet.
I would anticipate it maybe 1 grade higher.
So you're thinking for 2024, that add a position and reclassify a position from 11 to a grade 10. I mean, 11 to 12. Like, oh no, Rochelle was looking at me so goofy. You're like, oh yeah, that is goofy. 11 to a 12.
Yes, yes. Like I say, you'll see it in my capital improvement request. We will be doing a lot of network. If we don't take on a new person, we will just pay more for that network services. And it would be unfortunate to be paying a vendor for everything that we can do if we have a network person also. And that wouldn't be 100% network. It would basically kind of take over half of what the system administrator would be leaving behind for duties and half network. So
Mr. Chair, just a quick comment. So the time between when Dean left and Evelyn started, some of the more crucial feedback I received from the staff at that time was exactly what Evelyn's saying is it's gonna be more expensive to have network administration farmed out other than having an employee be able to do that. And so I know it was discussed at the last year's budget. It was discussed as well, I think, with Ms. Peach and Ms. Thiel when we were doing interviews. But we knew this request was going to be coming down the pipe because it was discussed. It's been discussed a couple of times in the last budget sessions.
And I would mention that just looking at history of just mainly our help desk duties, when I go over the history, you know, Dave and Colin, two of our people, came in 2012, started the help desk ticket system. Michael, another technician, came in 2017. Since 2017, our tickets, that's just a small part of what we do, but the tickets have increased over 60%. We're handling all the same stuff. We have more employees, a huge number of turnover and PC setups and maintenance, everything to do with all of that. And then on top of that, we have things like last year, Human Service Zone did a big PC refreshment, which was great. Takes months of our time. And this year, just as of yesterday, we're doing another one, months of our time again.
For that
all of,
Human Service Zone?
Yeah. All of that is all great and it's what we do, but if we have an IT department with only help desk, I mean, I'm doing a lot, but there's a lot of changes that have to come. I wouldn't be comfortable discussing the security side of our network in an open meeting, but there's a lot of things we are implementing, changing, fixing, everything right now. And it's just a lot coming up.
And where would the person be located?
Well, I have a few different thoughts on that, but I don't intend to cost us any money to do it. I mean, as a rule, we'd be able to manage it. I'm not looking for any giant reorganization or anything like that of our space. One of our thoughts is to put 2 people in my office. My office is large enough for 2 cubes. We could do that. I could take the other office out front. We have talked about trying to see if we could commandeer the meeting room on 3rd floor. That is an extra of Human Service Zone, not used that much, but I mean, I'm not saying they don't use it, they do, but maybe they have many meeting rooms. We'd be agreeable to do anything. We aren't looking for construction.
Mr. Chair.
Yes, Commissioner Beach.
This is one of my portfolios, and we need to recognize that there probably hasn't been a lot of upgrades that were necessary in previous years that we have taken care of. When the Human Service Zone, because of COVID, moved out of mainly their office area and many started working from home, that was a huge change. We didn't have laptops. We spent a lot of COVID money on laptops, so staff could actually work outside of the building, which I think it worked very well. And some continue to do that today. But there's lots of things there's lots of technology that all of our employees use, and we need to support Evelyn in moving forward in that area. I know that some of the things that she can't share are major, and we're seeing a lot a lot of piracy going on with technology, and we want to make sure that we're ready for that. And also spending money on contracts for various various entities or various work that we need to do that could be done in-house with appropriate training. Our staff didn't get a lot of training in previous years. I think as far as a staff person, we need to support that. We probably needed to support 2 staff persons, one in HR and one in IT. This is the time to do that. You know, this is the time also not only to prioritize technology for our staff, as well as prioritize support coming from the HR department.
I will also add Windows 10 comes end of life in 2025 or 2024, end of 2024. So we'll be doing much more of that again, more help desk work, but again, just consuming our time, consuming it where we can't be proactive, we can't work harder on security, we can't make better plans.
Any questions? From anybody here? To Ellen? You got all you need, Debbie, to explain what we can do, what we can't do?
Yep.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
I'm pretty quick.
correct.
Coffee, yeah.
Rubber stamps it then, right?
I was gonna tell them, I'm pretty sure Brody and Cal started their own lawn mowing business. We just hire them. It'd be a lot cheaper.
What was that?
They're older 2 boys, Cal and Brody. I think started like a lawn mowing service. I was gonna mention we could probably just hire them out for a summer, see how that goes. Money in their 5 children accounts or something.
So are we waiting for someone to come in?
Yeah.
Yep, couple people,
Okay.
take a quick break.
be only the one day, it's kind of hard. Because I'm working Monday,
Yeah.
then Tuesday off, and be back Wednesday.
Wednesday, are we just doing afternoon?
Yeah, we'll do afternoon, but I think, I don't know if there's anybody else that we're going to talk to, it could be prior to 2:40, but I'll notice that, I'll only do the afternoon though, won't be in the morning.
Yeah, we're planning on being at the lake during the 4th, but we're gonna come back on Sunday and the week of the 4th, and doing festivities in town rather than lakes area this year, for sure.
Well, you guys should have a co-manager.
Our backyard
Said
is
they didn't ask you for one.
thing, but we are going to a friend's house from church. They live, I think it's School 6, it's that neighborhood,
Oh,
that little, right behind the driving range, so she back there, so they, she sent you to me, the better one. So, it's very
we set up our chairs in the parking lot at Icon,
Oh, yeah.
in the ice arena.
Yep.
I mean, it's just
Yeah.
straight shot.
We used to live behind the Presbyterian church and we still had a good vantage point ever since they moved out to
Yeah.
South Middle School.
Yeah.
So, but a lot of my friends park in our driveway to walk around the block, sure, get there, even though we aren't usually home. Start selling tickets,
All
I
right,
guess. tomorrow.
Mr. Krasinski, you've been waiting patiently, so thanks for coming in.
Thank you for this opportunity to go over this information.
You have to speak up because Commissioner Peach is on Zoom, so if you could.
Very good.
Speak as loud as you can, I'd appreciate it.
Okay. So as I drafted the request for 2024, I included the additional position for maintenance tech 2 as we have an amendment in place for this year to get that person, that position advertised and hired yet this year. Then next year it would be included in the 2024 budget. Then going down my list of requests, I did increase my overtime anticipation, knowing that snow removal is going to come with off time, closure times, things like that. So that's going to increase the cost on overtime with picking up all of the surface lot snow removal for the county buildings.
Oh, can I stop you a second? It's on page 13, 14, and 16. You can follow along.
Okay.
But
Let's see.
13, 14, 15, is it?
13, 14, and 16.
6.
He has the buildings, the grounds, and then he has the utility budget. All right, go ahead.
Okay, so adding that position to the regular shares, adding overtime for anticipated overtime usage for the additional snow removal. I did add Becky to my cell phone allotment of usage because as the lead, she uses her phone a fair amount and she hadn't been paid previously, so that was an increase to my cell phone usage. On service agreements, I have 2 advertised increases already from PSA providers that we have. Johnson Controls has advertised an 8% increase for 2024, and Otis Elevators advertised a 5% increase. Those 2 increases are requiring at least the amount in service agreements to go up just to follow suit with what we spend out in the various PSAs that we pay on for plant service agreements with outside contractors. As I go down, increased gas oil costs for the snow removal equipment, fueling the pickups, building the skid steer, using the one dump truck from the highway department on our fuel costs rather than theirs. So increasing that fuel budget to have that included in the necessary funding for the surface lot snow removal. I added to the maintenance costs for vehicle parts and repairs, because inevitably with the snow removal equipment, there's going to be wear and tear items on those items that need to be replaced annually, or if the inevitable possible breakage of anything. So the anticipation and cost is just from past experience, knowing what we would spend annually on other equipment at other places that have been employed at, knowing the area that we covered. I used a calculable average, if you will, on how I anticipated those dollar amounts. Getting down into utilities then, electricity costs have been on an exponential increase for the last 2 years, and we fell short this year with our electricity costs with the increases that Xcel Energy has put to the commercial market. So there was an increase there in my requested amount. My both for the courthouse and for the Cobb, as well as gas usage, natural gas usage being for the Cobb, for the old jail, for the courthouse, and the parking ramp. All of those came with an increase. One of the ones that we're short on right now already funding for natural gas, we're already over budget on funding with the Cobb. We didn't have a curtailment this year. As we did last year, we spent 3.5 times in 2022. We spent 3.5 times our fuel oil budget for curtailment because we were curtailed that much in 2022, 2023, or sorry, 2021, 2022. We spent 3.5 times that on fuel oil, so we didn't run over on natural gas, but we ran way over on fuel oil curtailment. This year, we're running over on gas because we were fortunate not to have a curtailment at our contract level of 1B with Xcel Energy. It's hard to predict and hard to forecast that, but I still need curtailment funding for fuel oil, because if I have to spend for fuel oil, and if we continue on the natural gas increase rates that we're at, for various reasons, that gas has gone way up in the last 2 years, keep the buildings warm. That basically covers my increases that I've had on my line items, and I'm willing to entertain any questions on them.
We need to include, we have parking ramp maintenance of 81,000. Now that you're doing it and you have included all the costs in your budget, do we have to budget something? You know, maybe it's the pigeons that we have to get rid of, and maybe there should be something in there, but not 81,000 because they're paying all the snow removal costs out of there.
Well, that's an offset with the revenue.
Right, but even so, maybe we can keep the revenue, keep the revenue, get rid of the expense.
So to answer your question, yes, the maintenance expense in the ramp will not completely go away, but the vast majority of snow removal expense that is spent to outside contractors will have been gone. There's a few anomalies that could be played into that factor that could add a little bit of expense, not $81,000, but we have another year like last year, one dump trailer and one dump truck might be insufficient. Maybe we fall behind on hauling. We look for a rental trailer to pull with both pickups and a dump truck to be more efficient at hauling snow for a day or 2 or 3. Those are small, non-consequential costs so yes, reducing that maintenance cost in the parking ramp would be part of where I'm getting some of the funding from for fuel and maintenance cost on the equipment that we're going to have to maintain in order to keep it reliable to use every day that we need it. Are we going going to get rid of maintenance costs in the ramp entirely? No, we still gotta strike the lines. We've gotta buy that material. We've been doing that in-house for the last 3.5 years now too, rather than hiring that out, but we still have to strike. We still have to mitigate pigeons as best we can. We still have lighting to maintain and any other incidental damages that do occur out there that cost money that have to come from there. So that number could be reduced to offset some of these numbers that I've given you in this respect. And another factor that I didn't mention is how much is Brett going to absorb, being he's benefiting greatly from this, getting the service done without paying that money out either. That I don't have tabulated on here.
What is what we're gonna absorb?
Brett, that's a correction.
Corrections.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
He's also not writing a check for snow removal anymore with his staff position and the equipment that we bought. How much is he going to absorb of this money as well?
A big question for and later today.
Yep.
Questions? Ross?
Nope.
Hagan? Mr. Peach?
Nope, I have no questions.
No. You got all you need?
How's the swimming pool in the dome?
So far, we've kept it all contained in the pools. It hasn't hit the floor yet.
Isn't that wonderful?
Yeah, it's when we get the deluge is when it ends up inside.
We won't talk about it.
Knock on wood.
Yeah.
We did pump them down earlier this week after the weekend rain came through. One sump pump from one kiddie pool to another, down to the slop sink on 3rd floor.
Oh.
It's a great process. I'd recommend it to any large institution to practice.
Okay, if there's no more questions, we will let you go. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Where's it going with these things? What is that increase without the extra tech person?
The IT increase? Without,
Probably gonna be mostly the staff person, isn't it?
yeah, their IT budget went up 98,217. That's with their new person. Nothing about their salaries. If their salaries remain the same as they were in 2023, but they added a person. And then her other increases, it was 98,000. So most of it, 90,000 is from the person.
And what do you think we're saving and doing it ourselves? Any idea?
I have no idea. I don't know any of that.
Didn't he do a breakdown for us at one point? The savings?
IT.
Oh, IT, I'm so sorry.
He was
I just
asking
stuck
how
on
much would we save by hiring that person contracted out.
Okay.
I don't know that.
Yeah, there's Evelyn and I have talked about it. There's a set dollar amount, like $100 and some dollars an hour, whatever, which obviously we don't pay staff as long as they're trained to do the work that needs to be done with computer programs.
You could bring up a good point about the stuff.
We are adding one more thing to the schedule, 40, the Director of Administration, we're gonna talk about.
Is that being added now?
Yeah, at 10:40.
Okay.
Everybody want to take a break for 5 minutes?
I could take a snack quick.
Yeah, yeah.
And Mark texted me, he's on his way too.
What?
Mark is on his way too.
Oh, yeah.
He just had a.
We're gonna take a 5-minute break, Miss Peach.
Okay, sounds good.
Are you gonna bring up the generals? Are you bringing up the generals? during mine.
Yeah, I guess we got. See that interview that Phil gave, did you find it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's too bad he didn't talk about northern tier bases and leveraging existing assets.
Why would he? He doesn't seem to. Details.
I got it right here. 203,985.
Debbie, I will be stepping out in the CBIC meeting, but I mentioned to Tom, just because my mom works there, but I mentioned to Tom as we were looking at budgets that we do have LATCF funds, that $100,000.
Yeah.
Will need to go to use somewhere, so if that needs to be applied, that could be an option for.
Well, I think they're justified in their
Yeah.
203 because we couldn't do this work ourselves for cheaper. So although I think we've got a good deal and now it's 105 this year, it's a big increase, we still couldn't do it.
We did a good deal.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's my opinion.
So, and Haley, can you use
I
asset
think this is
forfeiture
just
money
ours.
for part of that?
Excuse me, what did you say?
Asset forfeiture money, can you use
Yeah,
that
they'll
for part
put
of
their
that
own
salary?
in their own budget.
Because they represent your office?
Um,
Not sure about that.
I'd have to look at we have that policy on asset forfeiture expenditures now based on that legislative session a few sessions ago. I think it probably would qualify. I'd be a little hesitant just because we like to utilize that for stuff that would help us in our cases, whether it be an expert witness or,
Right.
but technically, I think it probably could.
How much money do you have in asset forfeiture?
I'd have to look it up. I don't know. Do you know offhand, Colleen? It's quite a bit. We've got quite a bit of funds. But it's quite a bit, but one case where we need to do like mitochondrial DNA, we're talking $75,000.
Wow.
So it could get ate up quite quickly.
Yeah, we're gonna get rolling.
1040.
Okay.
Bob's trying to take over.
I'm so used to it.
That's right.
Get my
Mr. Peach, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Okay, we're ready to roll. Director of Administration.
What would you like me to cover down on, Mr. Chair? I think for the administrative services budget, it's an overall decrease. I think it's a decrease of about $58,000. The biggest reason for the decrease is I did not budget to retain General Spindley and Rue. That is about $120,000 a year cost to the county. It is not at all a reflection on their performance. It's not at all a reflection on them. Since they've been with us since 2014, and I proudly say that they've done a lot for the community. They've helped the county quite a bit. We've had since they've been with us, we've been realigned from AMC to ACC. The tenant mission became our own mission, became the lead wing for ISR. They help the county out with Grand Sky often. So this is not a reflection on them. This is a budget decision for my budget that I made. I know that this budget is going to be very difficult. And from my standpoint, I had a difficult time budgeting that when we're looking at salaries, deferred maintenance. I know 120 is not a lot, but I think whatever nickel you can find helps. So that is why they're not in there. It's budgetary. It's recognizing the needs that we have with capital improvements. You're going to hear more great news from me next Wednesday on the parking ramp. We just have a lot of mounting expenses. I know over the years, it's the concern of not having the consultants on as well. They give us access. With my position on the ADC board, I can get as much access as you want. At the last, when Ms. Leon and I were in DC, I met with the Director of Foreign Investment, CFIUS. I met with the Assistant Secretary of Defense on Installations and Environment. He's responsible for BRAC and strategic missions. When we go on community visits, which we need to keep doing, the A5, the A1, the A3, the A6, the A47, what do you want to talk about? We can plan it out. We have the script, we have the playbook. A1's personnel, A3 is operations, A58 is planning, A6 is cyber, A47 is engineering. So again, that it's not in there. It has nothing to do with their performance. It's really, it was just a my budgetary decision that I did not include it. But if the commission wants to put it back in, that's definitely a prerogative. Happy to answer questions on that.
I'll just make a comment. When we first talked about releasing the consultants over a year ago, I was very much against it because there were some unknowns going on at that time that we thought we needed them. And I've been a big fan of these two gentlemen. They're extremely knowledgeable, they have great access and so on. But I come to realize we can't afford that much right now. We need to spend the money other directions, such as the employee raises and that kind of thing. So I reluctantly agree that we probably have to do this year.
Was it an easy decision?
No?
Mr. Chair,
Commissioner Peach.
I would concur with that decision. I think that Mr. Ford has become well known at the Pentagon, and with his role on a leadership in a leadership position, I feel that we have access when we need it. It will be different having a new administrator at the Grand Forks Air Force Base, but I think that relationship can become strong if we really try to make those visits and try to be more available on base or at any type meetings that we need to be at. I think Chairman Ross has done a good job in trying to be available during meetings. So I would concur with Mr. Engen's comments.
Mr. Ross, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I just think, that everything those generals are doing right now or have done in the past, that Mr. Ford has filled those shoes very capably. And he has all the contacts at the Pentagon, the Air Force Base, Grand Sky. He can do everything that they can do in his capacity. I mean, it's just unbelievable the work that Mr. Ford has done. And so I would think that that would be a good cost saving. I mean, really, he's very capable of taking care of that. The one other thing that I would like to add.
So let me see if the other commissioners have
Okay.
comments
No,
on that topic.
All right.
I don't have anything additional to add.
Any comments on that topic?
I was in favor of
I-
this.
yes,
the moment
I-
I found out about it.
I agree with taking it.
Well,
Okay, the only one other comment is Mr. Ford's job description, and we've talked about this before. He currently is called administrative assistant. And I
Director of
think
Administration.
Director of Administration, and I think his title should be county administrator. I know Ms. Steele has redone the job classification and the title has remained the same, but I think it should be changed. With everything he does, very, very good resource for the county. He does so much for the county. I don't think a lot of people realize what he does and what he's capable of doing. So that is what I would like to bring up.
Mr. Chair, can I just say, this doesn't encompass department head oversight. Okay, I know that's been a point of controversy in the past, and this job description has been looked at multiple times in the past, and I think the biggest point has been oversight, and that's been an apprehension on department heads. It's interesting. It becomes a very controversial issue, but when a county department gets their own pay scale, you don't hear a peep. But when my job description comes up, it's amazing. But we talked about bandwidth earlier. I wouldn't have the bandwidth to oversee 20 departments anyways. And if the commission did it that way, then I'd have to revisit the administrative coordinator position, because I would have to then pass on more responsibilities to her. So I just want it to be clear. The job description doesn't call for departmental oversight, nor am I asking for it, nor am I chasing it.
Mr. Chair,
Adding some more clarification on duties.
And
Mr. Page?
I know that this has been an issue we've talked about for quite some time. In 2022, we did add one FTE into that position. I don't disagree with Mr. Ford, although I would like to work with Ms. Thiel and Roberta and Mr. Ford in moving forward. We don't want it to look like it's taking control of what commissioners are responsible for. But we want to make sure that we do it appropriately. Probably Ms. Wamstead would be involved in this. We did add to the department within the past 2 years. And I think that Ms. Lean has been a huge support for Mr. Ford, so that he's not totally responsible for doing all things, whether it be Grant Sky or things that are taking place. It was difficult for both of them to keep track of what was happening legislatively during our just previous legislative session. But I would like to be on a committee and research that. At this point, I've already heard that our staff positions are priority. So I'd be willing to move forward and work on that to make sure legally, whatever position, how it gets labeled, how it gets funded, would not take away from the priority of the other staff remaining with the county, as well as thinking about it, giving some time to the legal issues that we have to be aware of too. So I'm willing to put that on my portfolio, because HR is in my portfolio, and probably it's not going to be determined with the budget that we have to have, but certainly it'll be a priority within the budget as we move into 2024.
Phil?
If, I want to make sure we're all kind of on the same page. The most recent draft of the job description that I sent you an email, is that the one you're talking about, Commissioner Ross? Okay, because we do have a couple outstanding questions about adding a level of authority to approve certain things, so they wouldn't have to go before the entire commission. And we need to clarify that before we have a finalized job description. This is not based on the director or the administrator job description that was done a couple of years ago. This is based on the input that we had gotten to make sure that what we have correctly reflects what Mr. Ford's doing.
Okay,
So
yeah, I would like that update done. And
but I need to know what it is, and that's our biggest, and then we had some questions regarding an administrator and a county manager and how it fits in the century code. So we need to firm up that piece with the legal part. Because
Ready, right?
yeah, Ms. Wamstead, I think, has already done that, haven't you?
There's no issue. Commission name making a decision to change this job description, right?
Correct. Maybe there's some confusion between what the question is. I think maybe, I don't want to speak for Michelle, but I think there's maybe not clear guidance as to what duties need to be included in the job description. And maybe she needs some more information on that front. As far as if the county wishes to retitle the position to county administrator versus director of administration. If you recall, when we were looking at proposing home rule to the voters, that was an item that I did research. It is inherent in the powers of a home rule county to, the Board of Commissioners could make that change. Or you would have the authority to make, find a middle ground. You just need to make sure that it's clear in the description of the position. So what I mean by middle ground is maybe the position wouldn't have department heads report to them like some county administrators would, but there may be other duties such as they could authorize expenditures without commission's approval up to a certain dollar amount or something like that. You just want to be very clear in the job description as to what those authorizations would be.
Ms. Steele captured, so the information I sent her, she captured it in the job description that Commissioner Ross
We
is.
just have a couple of outstanding things that we need to make sure that the commission's okay with, and we need to make sure that it doesn't throw things
So,
off.
Ms. Wamstead, how does, and I don't like driving this bus, I shouldn't be, but how does changing a title from Director of Administration to County Administrator go against Century Code?
I don't think it does.
Okay.
I think that's, maybe I wasn't clear.
No, it's just, I've been hearing a lot of different stories.
But why is it important
So,
to change the title?
so I think at this point, just getting the job description updated and correct is, you can call me spaghetti maker if you want.
Do it. Just.
Okay.
I like spaghetti maker.
So, there's two things, and with all due respect to the commission, there's two things. I get hit by a bus tomorrow, I'm gone. You gotta hire someone else. With the current job description, you hire that person in 3 months, they're in front of you saying, this is not what you hired me to do. That's gonna happen. Or I just have to sit down, I can sit down with commissioners, all the additional that really isn't captured in the job description. I can go through all that with all your commissioners, and that will uptake your portfolio work. I mean, that's a commission decision. So I'm just, my point.
I'm just asking about the title.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that it shouldn't include.
no, I know what you're saying.
I'm just saying, but what's the importance with the title
So,
change?
I'll-
It should,
I'll-
include-
I'll-
your job should include what you do.
And I'm just at the point where I just need clarification on two pieces. That's it. And we need to know if there's going to be authority to make certain decisions, we need to know what those are, and if there's a dollar amount attached to them, what that is. And then that's the.
And I,
Still outstanding.
and
Is it-
I'm more happy.
Do you do that already?
sorry,
Is that something you do already? Approve expenditure?
no, that was,
That's something we're adding.
that was something like,
The new,
it was discussed where
At one point.
small change
there
orders.
are, your office pays a lot of bills and does all kinds of things within certain amounts, and then you report to the commission. There are some things such as smaller contracts or immediate repairs and so on that shouldn't have to wait 2 weeks to come to a county commission meeting. So maybe I was just suggesting that there's some level,
I can't,
most organizations, the office manager can spend X number of dollars on normal things and then report what's been done. It'd be accountable completely, but, and the level would be set at a very reasonable amount, I would think. But that's one thing we could think about, and that's what Michelle can.
yeah, and that's what I need to know from you guys. I have the wording to put in, but then you just mentioned something like signing contracts. So that's a little bit different because other, the commission signs contracts, not, so.
But, I'm
just
thinking
wanna
of a
make-
smaller contract to do a repair between, there's something that should happen, does it have to wait for a commission meeting to hire them or to get a bid and so on? So, not trying to make that all complicated, but there must be a way we can do something like that. How about Commissioners Rusted and Hagan? Your thoughts on these things here?
I think it's ridiculous for us to vote on small repairs, things like that.
Because
I think it was our first meeting, Nick was in front of us asking to replace a transmission in a vehicle. It's like, they should have the authority to make those.
Some things like that.
Yeah, so all you gotta really do is probably throw a cap on it, whatever the commission's comfortable with. They've got a budget to operate within. And so if they're not looking for additional funds from elsewhere, and let's just arbitrarily say 10,000, I don't know, doesn't really much matter, pick a number. I think it just makes everything go smoother, because, I mean, why would you want to wait 2 weeks to swap out a transmission right during the middle of snow removal season?
Yeah.
You know, I should be able to do that same day. That's just the one example I have, because I remember it, because I thought it was ridiculous, so.
Commissioner Hagan, any other thoughts?
An additional after kind of seven, I was gonna say.
One of the things I think about with this county administrator versus director of administration, that the title sounds like director of administration and nothing but a pencil pusher, which I accuse him of from time to time. But seriously, in the years that I've been on the commission now, I've seen that it has taken 10 or 12 years for Tom Ford to get where he is, doing everything we keep adding to the pile. And the air base and Grand Sky and some of those things added a completely new dimension, especially Grand Sky. So the job has grown significantly since he started, and even since I came on the commission 9 years ago. So I think it's appropriate as a home rule county to make that change, and it's up to HR to work out the thing, and then we have to deal with the
You guys
decisions.
decide what that looks like and let me know, and it'll be put in there, and then we'll look to see if it makes any additional changes to the grading of the job description, because currently what we have, it did. And then I can give that to Commissioner Rost, and
So what would you be asking, what are the blanks that we have to fill in?
what level of authority would this position have to make decisions that do not have to come to the commission first?
Okay.
Is it a financial amount? Are you agreeing that they could sign contracts for a certain amount? That's what I need to know.
Short-term contract, for example, maybe?
Because all I have right now is to increase the authority to take care of smaller matters so they don't have to go to the commission.
Other than that, is your
That's,
description,
other than that, we've got everything else pretty well, taken care of.
I can answer Ms. Nelson's question about why does the title change matter? I've got, this puts me in I walk a very, very thin line. And here's why. I have some department heads, I'm in a meeting with them, my peers, this is our county administrator, Mr. Ford, okay? Every commissioner I've worked for, with the exception of Commissioners Hagan and Rusted in open meetings, Mr. Ford, our county administrator. This is our county administrator, Mr. Ford. Or when I'm in public doing county business, my colleagues, the county administrator, Mr. Ford, the county administrator, Mr. Ford. It does put me in a really difficult spot. It puts me in an uncomfortable spot, and it will the next person and the next person, and the next person. So to me, I'd rather it's either this or it's that and have it settled. But when even, some peers, not all of them, but some peers and commissioners in open meetings refer to me as county administrator, I'm left, and my successor will be left going, well, which is it? So that's why I've talked to, it was Commissioner Falk, then Ross, then Ing, and I said, I prefer you change the title, because that's what I'm called all the time, and it creates issues.
So do you know what my title is and what people call me?
Director of Finance and Tax.
Finance and tax, but do you know what else I am?
county auditor?
County auditor.
And I would, don't call me that. I'm the finance and tax director. Oh, it's the same thing.
So, it is, I find it interesting that it's so, I'll stop, I've said that piece. So that's why, I just would like it
I think
finally.
it's just stepping stone. Next year, you're gonna come back and say, I'm the county administrator, I should be ahead of everything. It's a
Right.
one-year
So I'm an empire builder.
Can we deal with the title? and then work on the other issues
In,
with that policy. Can we change the title?
I had a quick question.
At a commission meeting, we can't, we're not,
Yeah, we
No.
can't.
committee meeting.
and does,
And it wasn't even on the agenda to talk
Right,
about this.
right,
I know.
and I don't know that. Is the change of his title, as long as, you know, we feel I mean, as far as I'm concerned, a changing of a title, I don't know that it needs commission approval,
Because he's, I mean,
because we didn't,
Yes, it does.
Right, we're not changing anything else, it'd just be the title.
and then when we answer that question, I can give you that job description, and if that changes compensation, then that could go to the commission.
Mr. Higgins?
oh, I just had a question. I know, you had mentioned maybe Gracie's title would change, if your title would change. I'm just wondering where that
Oh,
was.
Yes, ma'am. No, so where I was going with that is if the commission put department heads underneath.
Oh, okay.
That's not the issue.
That's
Okay,
all.
I just want a clarification, like
Yeah.
going forward, if that was
Yeah.
No, so then that puts on a whole nother
our
level.
responsibility and.
So this is not a hill I'm gonna die on. If,
I mean, we
it's a
can-
commission decision what you wanna do. I'm at the point to where it's become very difficult and awkward. It keeps coming up every couple of years. People think I'm pushing it. People think I'm trying to build an empire, so.
Commissioner Ross?
It's obvious you
Can
are.
we,
Securities.
can we bring or add this to the meeting on Tuesday? We
Wednesday,
can talk about this,
right? Wednesday?
or when, or,
Tuesday's 4th of July, Bob.
It's already out, but
The agenda's already out, so I
Okay.
wouldn't suggest doing it then.
okay,
you would or would not?
No, because it's kind of like secret, going behind people's back doing it.
Can this be an administrative services
You can amend
discussion
the
in the
agenda at
future?
practically every other meeting for something or other.
You can. You can do whatever you want. You can amend it and do it.
So we can
well,
talk about.
okay,
between now
so,
and then.
so maybe the second,
Something to say, I think.
Cynthia?
This usually falls under administrative services. I think this should fall under administrative services, the way the system we have that's designed. And this discussion should take place in a future meeting, not during budgetary meetings.
Okay, we can, we'll have to decide if we're gonna have, if we want to have a special meeting, a special administrative services committee meeting before well, we're doing budget meetings right up to the time of the meeting on the 5th.
Yeah.
So we're tied up for that. I think we do it after that, the next meeting.
So do we,
I would agree.
Okay,
do I move forward with changing the title? Do you feel you need to have a commission vote for changing the title?
Yes, I would say so.
Okay. Yes.
And I'll be more than happy to work with HR on that.
Ms. Wamstead, you had mentioned at previous meetings that administrative services is, all the commissioners are administrative services. So we could have this at a regular meeting, correct? I mean, we would actually have to have an administrative services meeting to deal with this, or can we deal with this at a regular commission meeting?
You're correct that there's no legal or policy requirement that this go through administrative services. I think maybe that's been the historical practice, but
Yep.
I think we discussed this when the issue of sheriff's pay came up. It wasn't a requirement that it go through administrative
You're right.
services, more so just historical practice.
Ms. Beach, did you hear that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. So,
Let's put it on the agenda for the following meeting. Not the 5th, but
oh, the second meeting in
second
July.
meeting in July, I think. we can spend the
Yeah,
time.
second meeting in July.
And then by then, can you give me what you want that to look like as far as the authority? Okay.
CBIC, I believe is here.
Okay, yeah,
Okay, here.
I saw her walking around out there, so I'll go get her.
Oh, I thought I didn't really ever hear yet. Okay, how many is? You did send some the other direction too?
I did,
Oh, you did already?
I did.
Oh.
I was like, oh no,
You take-
do you have enough? Okay, there you go.
Okay.
Anybody else need one?
I just told Gracie it wouldn't be as fun without her.
I got one. What do you have? Okay, whenever you're ready to
Would you,
tell.
I was just gonna ask Commissioner Engen if you wanted us to reintroduce ourselves, since we have some new faces.
I didn't hear you. What?
If you wanted to us to reintroduce ourselves.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I'm Koya, I'm the CEO of CDIC.
Tracy Leduc, I serve as the Chief Financial Officer. And I'm Laura Frisch, I'm the Vice President of Victim Witness and Visitation at CBIC.
Thank you.
And how much time do we have, Dave?
Actually,
You have to.
you're the last one for the morning.
6 hours.
Make it. Hour and a half, whatever you need.
I'm joking, we won't do that to you.
We've done it for about 40 minutes, but
Okay, well, I know we have some new faces on the commission, so we just want to leave some time for dialogue, if that's okay. I know we're here to talk about budget today, but I really do want to start off with just a significant thank you to a couple of people who really helped us. This is my first time through a legislative session. And it was, I don't think they knew how rookie we were, but we got through it thanks to several people in this room. I just really want to thank Haley and Sheriff Schneider. They helped us not only this session, but the interim working up to that with a couple of really important meetings, including one that actually led to a significant increase in the executive budget. So I just really want to thank you for that. Both Haley and Andy were present for a meeting with Lieutenant Governor and his cabinet back in April of 2022. And that led to a 72-hour request. Right before, literally almost to the day, a couple days before the 4th of July, the Department of Health and Human Services asked us for a proposal for the governor's consideration. We had 72 hours to pull it out of our ear. At that point, we had 6 of the 19 programs data. And by the grace of God and all that's good and holy, we threw that over we lobbed it over the fence about 12:35, I think, a couple of minutes past the deadline. But just really want to thank you, because I think your partner endorsement really went a long way in helping to understand just what a collaborative approach this is and why it's so important. And then Mr. Ford helped me a lot with some introductions to some Western North Dakota senators that we weren't as nuzzled up to, and that really went a long way as well. In the end, we had several testimonies this past session. Again, Sheriff Schneider and Haley were instrumental in providing testimony for that. And then probably the most powerful thing, in addition to the client testimony, was we had 19 law enforcement officers sign a joint letter throughout the state. So I think that just really went a long way in terms of the collaboration that went into this. And after it was all said and done and the smoke had cleared and the dust had settled, we had 3 bills that are now law, one that did equate to some money. One was adding stalking to domestic violence protection orders. So I think we're all going to learn together through that, Haley, because I know our staff and how your attorneys are so wondering how that's going to play out. And then expanding the domestic violence intervention to include additional penalties. So I think we added 9 different offenses through that. So, and that was really Representative Ista, along with Laura, really helped author that, those 2 bills that became a law. So the biggest one, and part of our push actually originated from this commission meeting a couple of years ago when we were negotiating this contract, and we went back to the legislature as a unified front. So this wasn't just CDIC, it was our 18 sister partners. We did ask for 17.65 million. We do have these slides in your packet. This is on page 3. I just wanted you all to see
the blood, sweat, and tears that went into the request, and it is broken down by domestic violence, sexual assault, state general funds, safe haven, sexual violence prevention, and then the intervention amount. As you can see, the governor did the biggest push. So the funding was actually a little less than 3 million for the whole state. He came back with a $3 million increase. The House threw another million at it. And in the end, we came pretty far short of our $17.6 million ask. We do plan to be bees in their bonnets in 2025, and we've already set about to work on that. The challenge for us, however, though Laura did try very, very hard, is crime victim witness was not considered as part of these dollars. And we did push and made a significant argument, but in the end, it was not an allowable expense under the state general funds. So I just want you to know we did try very, very hard and plan to continue pushing on this moving forward. But we fell short on when it came to crime victim witness. And then on page 4, just for those of you who are a little bit new to us, we have a summary here. It's about a $6.2 million operating budget. About 20%, close to 20% of that is privately funded. And then we have about over 80 employees now and serve Nelson and Grand Forks County. And with that, I'm going to actually turn it over to Laura.
You'll see on the top of page 5, that's our services that we offer at CVIC. And that wheel kind of shows you the 3 different areas: safety, healing, and education. And under each of those services, we have things like our Kids First Visitation and Exchange Center, our Crime Victim Rights, which is our victim witness program, legal help with an attorney on staff that does representation in civil law matters, crisis response, things like our shelter crisis line, advocacy services, self-sufficiency and support, kind of helping people move beyond that crisis and getting on their feet after an incident of violence. We have therapy for healing services to actually help people heal from and move past trauma, including for adults and kids. And then we offer prevention and education to the community. We do primary prevention in the schools as well as professional trainings. And then our accountability program is that increases intervention for those who've used violence in their relationships, often court-ordered participants into those services. And then slide 6, you can see CVIC in the county as of March 13th, actually should say April 13th. The various services we are offering, we offer all of our services, but this is kind of a live snapshot of some of the different things that we're doing in Northwood and Larimore, Inkster, Manville, Grand Forks, Thompson, kind of the main cities. We're very involved in the schools, and we have a rural grant that really offers a lot of services with therapy right in the rural schools and education as well. So as Koya mentioned, kind of our biggest pain point now is the victim witness program, and we had met with Mr. Ford and others to kind of talk a little bit about that, because although we've relieved some of the pressure on our budget within our other services, victim witness is the one that that really relies on a federal grant, a very small state grant, and then contributions from the community, as well as our contract with the county. And so victim witness services are mandated in state statute, the Fair Treatment Standards law, as well as Marcy's laws in our state constitution. And those mandate that there are certain rights that crime victims must be given, things like being present at a hearing, being able to have notification of what's happening in the criminal justice system. And we work very closely with the state's attorney's office to provide these services. In many other communities, it is a mix of private nonprofits providing that service, or many of the larger communities are housing those folks in the state's attorney's office. But we've had a lot of conversation with Haley about our desire to keep those services within our purview, and also that I think Haley will support the fact that we're able to do it a little bit more cost effectively than she would be able to do. So slide 8, you can see some of our program outcomes. We served nearly 1,400 victims and witnesses of crime through our crime victim specialists. That was a 14% increase over 2021, or 168 more victims. And once again, one of the highest numbers we've served to date. And then our victim witness team attended over 1,600 court hearings on behalf of or with victims of crime. The next slide gives you a little bit of historical perspective. So going back to 2012, the number of crime victims served was 748 victims. Last year, we served just under 1,400 crime victims. So we have seen that arc, and the state's attorney's office has seen that arc of crime victims and crimes committed increasing over the last 10 years. With that, I'll turn it over to Tracy to talk a little bit about the budget request itself, which this year is specifically focused on the victim witness and having maybe a separate contract around that.
Yeah, so in prior years, we had a contract for all the services that we provided, kind of that holistic wheel, all of our safety, healing and education services. This year, we're going to backfill some of those with the increase in state general fund dollars that we got. So we're asking specifically to be made whole on the crime victim witness services. So on slide 10, I believe that is, you have our budget. We haven't finalized our budget yet. So this is our best projection at what our budget will be come October. There are 4.75 FTEs in this program. It is a quarter of Laura's time, who's the vice president of the program. It is a full-time director, 3 crime victim witness specialists, and then an administrative assistant or a half-time staff to help them with letters and notifications and things like that. The related occupancy costs for them, so things like utilities for their offices and for their square footage, materials and operating expenses, which are things like their IT expenses, some professional development training, those types of expenses. A small amount related to assistance for clients that sometimes we purchase water for victims during the trial, some maybe traumatic loss books, some sensory rings, things like that. So our total direct expenses to run this particular program only are just over $380,000. This program, like all of our other programs, takes an indirect cost allocation of $70,912 for a total of $451,000 to run the crime victim program. We do have, as Laura mentioned, one major federal grant that's passed through the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation out of the state, and that's our VOCA grant. Its award period is October through September, so it doesn't quite correlate with a contract with the county. We're anticipating that our grant this year will be $215,559. The state grant manager said to expect about the same this year. I do want to tell you though, they have been giving us the warning probably for the last 3 years that the crime victims account is not getting the deposits like they anticipated. So I think they're just trying to kick the can down the road. They are taking money out of, they get their grant a few years before they pass it on to us. So they're trying to, I think, kind of backfill until the deposits in the crime victims account go back up. So this is our best projection. We'll get notification of this award actually probably the end of July, end of August in that time frame. But we are right now projecting that at $215,000. We get a very small grant from the state of North Dakota for $62.50 for this program only. And then we also get some victim witness fees that are ordered through the court. And this is based on a rolling 12 quarter of deposit that was $25,428. So our total revenue to support this program is $247,000, which leaves us with a shortage, which we're asking the county to fill of almost $204,000. So that's, year over year, that would be a $99,000 increase from services that we had contracted with you for 2023. I don't think I need to read those next bullet points here. I think I touched on all of those, but.
And then we just wanted to add for your reference also towards the end of the packet, just some fun facts on the rural expansion that we've been doing, not only in Grand Forks proper, but in Amaretto, Thompson, Larimore, and Northwood. We did, at the Commissioner Ross and Sheriff's suggestion, we did reach out to all those councils to let them know what we are doing in those communities, the value of what we're offering in those communities. And I would say at least 2 of them gave us kind of a indication that they might be able to help support. So I think that will grow over time as well, but we just wanted to add those because we were able to sort of put dollars and cents to those services for safety, healing, and education in those forms.
Questions from commissioners?
I do have a question. You guys do wonderful work. When you report the numbers of individuals served, is that like one person maybe getting 3 services? So it would be 3 people, or do you keep it at one person getting services? You look at the service, the unit of service, or do you look at the number of people that are actually served? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it is actual people served. And sometimes one crime will have several victims and witnesses though. So that isn't necessarily equating to the number of crimes prosecuted, but it is individuals.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yep.
Mr. Russ?
A 2-part question. So bouncing off of Commissioner Peaches. So if someone's in a significantly abusive relationship and they seek your services out 6-7 times throughout the course of a year, that still counts as one?
It's one individual, yep.
So there's possibility that number is even higher if you went by per incident?
Yes, yes.
And we do record, like, for example, our therapists, we record the people, adults and children we see, as well as the number of sessions. So we.
In your packet, you'll see, like, for example, you can look at Amaretto, 299 sessions, 84 students, 37 victims of crime. We did have in our presentations to those communities, we broke out not only the number of individuals, but how many services that they received. And that equates to those dollar amounts that are there.
That's the second part I was curious about is this is mine and her first time around with doing this. What was your guys' request last year?
It was 105,000. You know, we requested more, but we were awarded 105,000. And that was for all of our services. So when you look at that holistic wheel, we applied, internally allocated a portion of that to each of the services that we do. This is one of those slices of that pie.
It's not really apples to apples because this year we're just asking for that crime victim witness piece.
Oh,
Which is a requirement that we provide by law.
It's a state mandated program.
So if we didn't do it, from my understanding, probably Haley's office would have to pick that up.
That's correct. We are unique in that way, Commissioner Russ said, not every county has a CBIC. And I can tell you, speaking as a victim of crime in Cass County, it's not handled to this level. I will say that with pride. So.
Sure. Awesome. Thanks.
Any other questions? Ross? Commissioner Hagan? Wamsit, we were talking earlier, maybe you could explain just a little bit, Ms. Wamsit, about how they're actually saving us money by doing this.
Yes, so we work very closely with the victim advocates at CBIC. Regular contact on a daily basis, I would say our attorneys have with their folks. They provide irreplaceable services. I mean, top-notch services to our office. We utilize them all day, every day. And I think that the cost assessment that they're asking that the county share in is a deal for us versus the alternative of if we were to have to hire staff to provide those services ourselves.
Thank you. Commissioner Ross.
You guys do a wonderful job. I would just like, it's odd that, we talked about kicking the can down the road. The state mandates all of this stuff. So the money should come from the state. And they don't realize it, but so they throw it back on the county, you know, to fill the void. And that's unfortunate. I think it's odd. If they ever experienced anything that you guys have had to deal with, the money would be there. It really would. They just turn a blind eye to it, I think. And that's unfortunate. Because, you know, I've been involved with CDIC since it was adult abuse and rape crisis. So what you guys do is unbelievable. So I just appreciate what you do.
I appreciate that. We do plan to come back with loud bells in 2025 because I did see what dollars were being thrown at 4 times what we're asking for here. And we are saving lives and we are preventing future violence. And now you're gonna get me started. But you know, it's a little upsetting when I see that type of spending. It makes me want to run for office, literally.
Do it.
So, but I'm not gonna do that. But it's hard. And we had a victim share her story with the Senate, which was our toughest customer, I think. And I think we won them over. It's just, I think with the scurry of 900 bills, it's hard to get their attention, Commissioner Rost. And we were literally, Laura and I were in the ladies' room ready to sign one of the governor's bills, and well, he signed it, I didn't. But she was one of our biggest advocates, and she hadn't even remembered what the 17 million. And of course, 48 hours before the session ends, she's panicking because it's not enough. So I know everyone believes in this. It's just, and again, I was the rookie lobbyist this year, but we'll keep at it. I assure you, because unfortunately there's still 1,700 kiddos with severe trauma in Grand Forks County.
I mean, I look at the legacy money, all the money that the state has, and they certainly could appropriate that to help you guys out with a very important job you do. You know, in my law enforcement career, the worst thing I had to deal with was Jerry Grindy, and that was tough.
I think we're still going
very tough.
Yep. Well, we certainly appreciate this partnership. It means a lot to us. We've been working with Haley and her team. Few of them, like I said, are helpful in helping us change laws. So it'll be curious to see how that plays out now with adding stalking, and if that will make a dent in violence too. I'll be curious to see. And of course, we'll come back also with what we've delivered on this measly 7.5 million also. So, and for us, as you know, just to give you an idea, the bottom line impact for us is about
300 a year
for the biennium.
Additional.
Yeah, additional. So
it helped, and we'll backfill other services that we were funding with private donations with that. But unfortunately, this is one program that doesn't fit in the scope of their state general funds. So.
The good news is also, Commissioner Ross, is we don't have to ask for this again. This extra money now will be in the budget, hopefully forever. We just hope there's more of it now.
When the next legislative session comes up, if you need assistance from me, I would be more than willing to talk to those guys.
That would be we'd really appreciate that. It just goes so much farther when you have a partner there with you. The credibility goes up.
Can you remind me before we go, what are your next steps on decision making? Remind me of that. I appreciate
The commission will tell us what to put in the budget. They'll bring it back and see if we're within the 60 mils that we can't go over.
Right.
So although you have a state funded mandate, or we have a state funded mandate, we increase our budget and they get mad at us that we've increased our budget.
So what are your timeline, Debbie? Can you remind me though?
So I have to have the preliminary done by August 10th.
Okay.
I'm hoping that I will have a preliminary budget, maybe the 18th. Not, it'll be the first meeting in August that we'll have it approved.
Would you need us to come back to the commission meeting then?
No. Okay. You don't have to come back.
Okay.
They will direct us whether we should put it in the budget.
Sure.
And then they're all here.
Okay.
We've all heard it, so.
Yeah, my question on that is, are we gonna wait till all these meetings are completed before we have a special meeting to talk about how we're going to actually act as commission, or since we're all in this committee, do we just do it at the commission meeting?
Well, we'll probably decide on the 5th if we're gonna have another meeting after we finish these last ones.
Okay.
We'll have another meeting probably, and if you're available later that week even, and to give us ideas how you want us to proceed.
Sure.
And then I'll bring it to the 18th of July if possible.
Sure. Yeah, that'd be good. Done by that time.
Yeah.
And then can I ask one more question too? I didn't, it just occurred to me. I know the home rule. There was the home rule and then there was the money associated with it.
I said sales tax.
So is that something that you think we would rejuvenate again next election?
24.
Are we gonna do it? The sales tax?
We would be happy to help with that as well.
We were gonna do it this year, but the city's got to rejuvenate theirs.
Yes.
And of course, then the school referendum.
Yep.
Those are all big tax issues right now, so.
Okay, good point. I'm glad you're on the commission, not us.
You wanted to run for office.
I know. I was kidding. That was a joke.
Anything else? Thanks for coming in.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
So are we adjourned, or is there anything else
Well,
we're doing?
we can talk a little bit about what you've seen today and what you've heard today.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question?
Ask who a question?
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
What kind of dollars was being requested by this group, CVIC?
203,985. And they had requested 105, or actually they requested more, but we have 105 in the 2023 budget.
Okay, well, I get concerned that we're trying to make a non-county funded agency whole. I understand that. But it concerns me that we can't even make whole what our county budget is before we're starting to look at contracts.
So this
mandated.
This topic is what we're required to do, and they're doing it for us more cheaply than if we hire people to do it, and they do it better probably. So
The state.
I don't think this organization's in the same situation that some others might be.
Well, that budget amount they're requesting what it costs the CVSC to carry out what we're mandated to do.
And we couldn't do it cheaper.
Right.
No.
Not a chance.
Not close.
That's maybe one, that's not even one employee.
Yeah.
$204,000. To read benefits and everything else, and cash onboarding. Yeah.
So that would be a question. What does the board want me to do with CDIC? Do you want to put the 203,985 in the budget? Because it's not there now.
I think
so.
Yes.
I think we have to. I mean, we're
Yeah,
mandated
what's
to do
our,
it. so-
what's our alternative?
Yeah.
Having Haley and her crew do it?
Yeah.
More expensive?
Yeah, they don't have that much
Have
to do
Haley
with
hire
it.
us 4 more staff.
I could maybe provide a little clarification so the board gets an idea on the budget, because I'm not sure everyone was here when we discussed it before CVIC came in. So knowing that this was their budget request, I thought it was only diligent to reach out to some counties that do provide these services directly through their own staff. Cass County being one. CVIC indicates that they have 4.75 folks providing these services. In Cass County, they're doing it with 3 folks. Their 3 people also provide restitution services, which is currently provided by our office. That's not part of this contract. And so what I did is I looked at the pay scale for Cass County, what they currently pay for folks like this. I also conferred with Michelle to get the amount of, assuming if we hired somebody and they took the maximum health insurance and whatnot. I figured the low end cost of one employee would be about $99,000. So I guess to give you an idea of the cost, we could perhaps hire 2 people for an equivalent cost of what they're charging us. We do provide restitution services already in our office. So when we look at Cass County doing it, 3 people plus restitution services in those 3, us hiring 2 plus the services we're already providing, it is somewhat comparable because I think a lot of the costs of like supervision, Laura, that's her position, is supervising this department. We could probably provide that at no additional cost to the county. Also, a lot of their office supplies, I had mentioned in our prior discussion, but I don't think everyone was here. Their budget includes $25,000 in like office expenses. You know, our office, we have over 30 employees and our budget is $50,000 for office supplies. So I think we could include them at pretty minimal cost there. In any event, probably the biggest hurdle for me is their budget includes the federal funds that they go through the grant process for. And so that would assume that we take over that, which the grant reporting and all that is a pretty onerous duty to take on. So I think, you know, short story is, I think this is something we can kind of keep doing a cost assessment each year, depending on what their request is and what our needs are. But I think for what we know this year, it's a better deal for the county to pay the amount requested to CDIC and continue as is.
What about space? Do you have space for 2 more people?
Yeah.
No, well,
Where's the
no.
city?
It's a complicated question right now. The court's trying. We do provide space for the victim advocates. It's a very small office, so certainly they can't all 4 be in there at the same time. But right now, it's kind of just a landing pad for them when they're meeting with a victim in the courthouse. It certainly isn't a 40-hour a week for 4 employees space. That would be an obstacle if we took this on ourselves. We'd have to figure some of those things out. So that definitely would be another consideration.
So you all agree it should be in the 2024 budget?
Yes.
And I guess we had requests for positions. The sheriff's wanted a position that I didn't know about.
The sergeant.
No, they want to
Well, no,
reclassify
they
a
want
position,
another
but they
person
also, they got approval to hire a person to fill for some of that was,
Kasperchik is gone.
right.
Military.
But he is coming back
Okay.
and they want to keep that position that they had hired, so that now they have 2
That
people.
would be adding up.
And so then in 2024, they keep, I believe Commissioner Falk had said, when you have a retirement, don't fill it then, is how to keep the numbers the same.
Sure. So you got Chris Smith that's
But now
retiring
he's
today.
requesting to keep it and fill a retirement, so.
They've already
One
backfilled
more
Chris
person.
Smith's.
What was that?
I said, and they backfilled Chris Smith's position already.
So there's a person already hired for Chris Smith.
Oh, we
Well, the
already
next
did?
one.
Exactly.
Yeah, all their chairs are accounted for.
So that's the question. What do you want me to do? And you have to think about the retirement that he requested.
Yeah.
That's a big
And I
one.
guess he stopped me and said it's not a 5%.
I sent you an email. It does not work out to be 5%. It's less.
It's less.
And you could make a choice to not, so.
They could pay, you could have the employees pay a larger share.
It's like a 3-2 split or
Yes.
something.
You could.
So that's something you've got to figure out, what you want to do there.
So I
And
think.
what I could do is you could direct me to give you options. I want to see an option with that person, with the retirement. Or is a person out? Do you not want that person at all? Or you want to see an option with the person and with the retirement? Let's see where we're at. And then you all see the option without.
So Michelle, like that deputy that's been backfilling for Kasmerchik. So if we choose not to fund that, he's.
No. I don't think that was.
We wouldn't, if Kaz came back and he would be over a deputy.
Yep,
And
and
then-
starting in July, if he comes back in July.
Is he or September? I don't know.
He's in July. He just told me right outside the door.
And I think he has 30 days to transition.
So the deputy that's been backfilling, what happens to him?
Well, the idea was that is the
He'd be
first
added to the
retirement,
staff, right?
he would be added to the staff. They'd already have one more
So
this
they're
year.
gonna retire.
And
But they already-
but what they had talked about was, in a perfect world, if it went the way Tom Falk had talked to him, he would not have filled Chris Smith's position.
Right.
And he would have held off because he knew Chris Smith would be retiring about the time Kaz was coming back.
Right.
And then Kaz would come back to his position and the person backfilling Kaz would say, but he's already filled Chris's position.
So we'd be up 1 or 2 positions.
He'd be up one.
We would be up one. Right now, if Kaz came back today,
He would be one
he
overhead.
would be one over what he's budgeted for anyhow.
What he was talking about the sergeant position is to reclassify somebody already, one of the chairs that's around his table, yeah.
We've got 4 sergeants now, 2 on days, 2 on nights.
Right, he wants one that
Right.
does some administrative roles. And so he would take a person who's currently in probably, I don't know. He was looking at like the corporal investigator level. Because I think they're the same
Yep.
grade, so he was saying, I'd take somebody who's a corporal or an investigator, that position would get reclassified higher.
But that
One
one change the
sergeant.
number of deputies, it's just a question.
Right, and then somebody would backfill the corporal
Okay,
position.
so there's a captain already that runs the investigations.
Right.
Why would he need a sergeant in there?
You need to ask Andy.
Yeah.
It's-
I guess I have a problem with putting additional money into the sheriff's department when we're already improving staff morale in July. We've got other departments that are not adding on or have asked to add on. And, you know, one department that's taking a cut, I don't know if there are other cuts that are going to come forward from other departments or not. We don't know that, but I just feel like you know the salary issue came up and they got it funded this year and we can't even talk or even prioritize in 2023 any other departments, and then plus they want to add on 1 or 2 people. I'm having a problem with that.
Andy should have actually held up filling Chris Smith's position
Should have.
to allow that backfill guy to keep
Keep
the
the
job. Seriously,
Yeah, because
it's kind of a end
the
run.
last
right
one
now.
that I advertised for, they have 3 coming on board. One starting July 1st, one starting July 16th, and one starting August 16th.
In the sheriff's department?
Correct,
New hires.
correct.
Plus the backfill.
No, that's
So he
three.
could
Yeah,
have not
he's in-
hired one of those people.
They didn't use the backfill position for one of those spots?
That's correct, he did not.
Was there a reason for that you were given?
Well, he
doesn't
said in the
really-
commission meeting, he held off.
Until
Doing
the,
some hiring until he got his salary issue resolved.
But that salary issue is getting resolved, but then we have how many other departments that aren't? And I feel that that's just creating more frustration by other employees thinking, you know what, I need to look for a different job.
He should have held off fill in Chris Smith's spot. To absorb that.
So are all three of the new ones onboarded already?
No, we have July 1st, July 16th, and August 16th.
And they're
They've all been extended
contracted,
offers.
Offered, yep, offered and accepted.
okay.
So now we leave the backfiller hanging, really.
I don't know that you could fire that.
Yeah, I don't-
Well, I mean, you could do a layoff, but.
Or you could rescind an offer. That's not our high recommendation.
Right, you could do like the August 16th, because that guy, he's still in CO Basic School.
Post training.
Yeah. What's the feeling of you guys? What do you think? I mean, he's actually adding a guy without going through the proper channels, I think, really.
Well, I thought he kind of snuck that in there.
Yeah, got like an end run in football.
Oh,
I think
something to think about.
Yeah, I'm kind of mulling it over.
Yeah.
And that is a lot, especially with the contribution request too.
Yeah,
That's a lot.
yeah.
That, I mean, doesn't go into account. So it looks like 105, but then you have the contribution plus the other employee that's not on here.
And even that sergeant's position, he's already got 4 sergeants. You know, 2 on days, 2 on nights, and it's like, I think Sergeant McLean has been dealing with the civil. You know, he kind of goes through everything with everybody. Oh,
Well, the question is, what direction do we give Ms. Nelson about putting that backfill job into the budget for discussion purposes, or just simply saying just quit?
I just think they should maybe take that August 16th person and throw that backfiller in there.
And then in 2024, don't budget for an extra person.
Yeah, that would be the key.
And what about the reclassifying? Did you know about that? Reclassifying? Did you do it? I didn't know about the reclass.
No, I didn't do anything.
Okay, so that would, that's another thing. We'd have to add that reclassified if you want.
Sergeant?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, that would increase salary some, that would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the issue there.
Because if he takes an 11, moves it to a 12, then he's taking a 10 to move to an 11. Because he said he would have one less deputy.
Right, so he doesn't have an extra person, they're just paid 3%.
Right, well, in his calculation, he would still have an extra deputy because he was basically taking that backfill position.
Right.
And utilizing to extend the sergeant position. But that was just a temporary fill because we didn't have any expenses when Kaz is on military leave. So we didn't have any added expenses on top of Kaz's position because.
I think they can keep doing what they're doing without the additional sergeant's position, to be honest with you. But,
I would agree.
and the backfiller, he needs to fill one of those contract positions, I think. So they're at status quo.
This person's been on duty for a year. About, was it 1 year?
I have the battery power.
Not longer than that, though.
No, I want to say it was a 12-month deploy.
So we would tell this guy to take a walk and, because we want a brand new guy in August.
Oh,
No,
we can't tell
can't
the
do that.
guy that's on deployment to take a walk.
He has
No.
to take his job back.
Yeah.
The guy who's backfilling that position.
Oh, the August
They have to
16th?
leave.
Yeah,
Well,
unless they have somebody else that we don't know that's gonna be retiring.
But I mean, why would you hire all those people when you still have a backfiller that knows that the full timer's coming back?
Well, I
don't
mean,
understand that. I really don't.
we hope that he comes back, I guess. I mean, people change their minds or they, you know, they go on deployment and then they're offered a promotion within their military rank and sometimes, I mean, that's happened before at the correctional center. They
Yes.
held a job for a year and then they get a promotion through the military and they decide to reenact, you know, full-time, so. But right now, if everything is as is, they would be 1 chair short for everyone to sit down.
I got one.
You just have the musical chairs.
Yes, we talk about that a lot. It's easy for them to visualize.
Tables and chairs.
Go.
Who wants it the most?
I mean, as tight as things are, right?
And then the retirement. You want to look at that as an option.
And I think
And then
the deputies with their new pay thing, they can pay more.
So what it would go up.
They're retired. It's a good retirement. You know,
And it would, okay, so with the new numbers, if the county maintains and just contributes the 13.26 like we're doing currently.
It's gonna go to 14.26 next year.
Oh, okay.
One more.
So. Okay, well, here's, if we stay at the 13.26.
Which you can't.
Then it would go, then the employee portion for the deputies and the correctional officers would go from 2% to 5.92%. If the county wanted the employee to stay at 2%, then the county portion would raise.
We'll look at, I'll give them those options, what it looks like.
But just for you to, it's more like a 3% increase and not a 5.
Okay.
Basically the split between what the employees would pay and what we would pay, right? Is that what we're-
Yeah, you could change it. It's gonna cost more, but who's gonna pay it?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so then we have an
Started his deployment on September 12th.
well, that's not what Andy just told me.
No, he started his deployment.
He's coming in July. Oh, that, he started, yeah.
That's when he started.
So he must be coming back early, if it's a year long thing.
Cause I have his orders right here.
Sure. So now we have an additional person for HR. You want us to include that in the budget?
I would prefer
Let's
so.
put it in and decide whether we're gonna handle it.
Okay.
I mean, if we just
Yeah.
say no now,
And
we
do you
don't have
want to
enough
do that
facts.
for the IT too?
Yeah, I would say yes to both and then we'll.
I would too.
Okay. What else do I need it? Oh. You don't have to decide this now, but the wellness hours and actual personal days, you want to think about that, whether or not you want to.
I think we should go to 8.
Yeah, I think going to 8 would be.
We were gonna ask the correctional center about that, so maybe we
Right.
shouldn't even.
Yeah.
I think we
We
need
don't
to
even
Nebraska.
have
I
a
have to get
discussion on that.
information about who got wellness hours.
Yeah, that's right.
They can design.
You know,
Well, they can do things.
Oh, yeah, IT wanted to reclassify a position as well.
Say that again?
IT wanted a
Chair?
new position and reclassify a position. Do you want to do that?
We'll just put it in there,
Okay.
just to see what it looks
See
like.
what it looks like, I will add that.
Mr. Chair,
Cynthia wants to.
Cynthia.
Cynthia?
I want to make a comment because that's something that some years we look at and some years we don't. When we look at the budgets and what they're increasing, we never talk a lot about where are you at now? You know, it's July, going to be the beginning of July. Do you have money that you're underspent for this year so far? Are you overspent? You know, sometimes because of the turnaround issues, the revolving door, sometimes we have somebody that has whatever budget was in 2023, but what if they're underspent? And so they don't utilize their full budget. We have to make that a part of the issue too. If their budget is whatever, and let's say they're not at 50% now, let's say they're at 40%, but some bigger payments are coming in. I think we need to continue to monitor as we get through this year. If they have money left over, once we get to the end of the year, that money left over has to transfer onto that budget so that they don't think, oh, gee, we had, I'm just using an example, we had 150,000 for this budget in 2023, and here I am in the middle of the year, and we've only spent whatever, 100,000. We've only spent 50,000. So gall, if I have another 100,000 to spend through this year, and then my budget next year is going to be increased again, we have to look at the funds that are unspent. We know we're never going to be perfect on staffing, but I want managers to understand that when they're not spent down in one year, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to get whatever's remaining for this year, plus add on whatever the budget is for the next year. There's got to be a way to address that. Sometimes it's difficult to address in the middle of the year because we can't control staff leaving, hiring a seasoned employee as compared to hiring an unseasoned employee because of the numbers of years of service they have given. But we need to think about, where are they at with their budget? Are they at 50%? Are they at 30%? Or some way that it doesn't become cash carryover, but it goes, well, it can, and that becomes part of the budget that they unspent. And I don't mean burning it. I don't mean quick hiring more staff or quick buying more vehicles or equipment or whatever, but truly looking at what's your budget in the previous year, where are you sitting right now? Because I have to do that with my Department of Transportation budget in Minnesota. I can't go out and burn it and get a bus. I can't go out and add a staff person. If I don't use it, then that becomes a part of my cash that moves into the next year. And that budget has got to be in July 31st. And that budget is for January 1st of 2024.
And we get budget reports from Colleen, and it tells us where we are.
My monthly budget reports that I give to the commission shows as well.
But I'm just saying that that's something we have to consider, so that, and I'm not trying to be mean to program managers, but when you put a budget together and you're going to have some funding available, that funding available should really take the place of some cash you haven't spent in the previous year.
What you're saying, Cindy, I think, is that if they're not spending, they don't need that much money. Then how come?
No.
Every year.
Absolutely. And you know that I know that we run the gamut of, we don't know what the price of gas is going to do. We don't know what equipments. Look at this building projects. Look at when Nick talked about with Culver's last meeting. Well, gee, they had a 40% increase in 2022, but now in 2023, they have a 40% decrease. We don't know what's going to happen with with costs and stuff, but why do we give extra money if maybe what they want in their budget could be afforded if you do some? It's just a way to make it a fairer system, and not take it out on the taxpayers, because right now, unfortunately, that's our only option. Our only option right now is the taxpayers, those that have houses, land, property, whatever, however it's graded. We have to use taxpayer dollars to cover our budget. They don't want us to go over 60 mills. We get that. They set the price of a mill. But my biggest concern is the past few years, we've come through on our budget not making increases. Well, that just looks great if you're city government or if you're the school district, because you don't want the county to raise their taxes, God forbid, because we like our continual tax increase, but we don't want the county to do that. Well, I'm sorry, but that's got to become an awareness issue for taxpayers. If they do live in the city or whatever school district they're in, they're wanting to build multi-million-dollar buildings, whatever the case is, and it can't be taking it at the brunt of the county. And I'm sorry, I think in previous months it has, or previous years, it has been at the brunt of the county.
So another thing about the salaries. HR presented a plan that they wanted to implement as of effective July 1. And that was, there were 39 positions that needed to be regraded. There was 112 positions that were out of market, and give 5% to everybody else. And so I did that effective as of January 1st, just that, and the cost would be $2.2 million. And that gives a step. Everybody gets a step on their anniversary date if they're a qualified employee or a seniority date. Does not give anything more, does not change the sheriff scale with any COLA. And the out of the market people would just get the 12%. They wouldn't get more. And that's 2.2.
So that would be no one getting a COLA. We wouldn't do a cost of living.
Well, so the plan that you presented said the regraded positions will get regraded plus 5.
Right, right.
So that's in there. And all other out of market, they just get their 12.
Right.
And then all others get 5.
Right, and then.
That's 2.2.
Exactly. and
So do you want me to put in something else here,
Well-
and then we can see what it looks like?
Yeah, I don't know if you want to look at a cost of living. I don't know, because
The 5% was a market increase.
What about doing half in 23 and half in 24?
That's tough.
You already tried that.
I think we're gonna get that.
Well, how are you gonna afford it? Right now, we still got some CARES dollars sitting there that we could afford to do it in this month or in this year, half of it, and then do the other half in 2024. I mean, I know that there's a feeling you don't want to spend money that's one-time money, but this is one time where it's sitting there. Why don't we use it to the good of trying to increase our wages for employees?
So the cost of that was $750,000 if you did it effective July 1. And we already did the sheriff, so that's 150. So it's $900,000 for this year that we'd use out of the CARES dollars.
How much do we have in CARES right now?
Then we'd levy for it
And what?
next year, but it's a big chunk.
But how much do we have in CARES right now, Debbie?
1.6.
It's 1.6, but we spent 150 for the sheriff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but 1.6 going to employees.
1.45.
1.45 is gonna make taking on how many would it be minus the sheriff? The dollar amount?
750 for 6 months.
I would be in support of that because that makes a huge impact on our employees beyond the sheriff's department.
you could even look at, if you wanted to consider doing something in 23, doing it later in the year. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of different things, because right now, I mean, July 1st is in 2 days.
So
So
another,
it's like, you know.
another suggestion, okay, so the other out of market part, that 5% market rate plus the 7 was built in because they would have to be on another scale. So it's not, so that's already built in, that 12%. What we could even do is just carve that out, just increase the scale by 5% for the, a portion of this year. And then those out of market positions would, instead of being 12%, they would be 7%. Because it was just built in because we had to put another scale in place. So like if we just wanted to choose one, like globally, that kind of touches everybody. If we were looking for something this year, like everybody's chair gets touched. And that would include the sheriffs because they got their own.
You guys want to look at doing an increase of some sort this year? I guess that's the question. And if they do, then we'll have to figure something out. Is that the direction that this board would like to be?
I think we have so many decisions to work on. I don't quite think that we should do it now. I think it should be January 1.
But that's not fair to everybody else who isn't in the sheriff's department. That's why I would like to do something for them in 2023 We sit here and bounce around. What are we going to do with CARES dollars? We don't ever consider our staff. And I feel that's unfair to the other departments besides the sheriff's department, who got his way when he brought it forward, but we didn't do it appropriately. But I think it would be fair to try to make everybody, we're talking about one entity that just admitted they want to be made whole. Let's try to do something in our own organization as well.
I guess if you're saying it's gotta be fair, then it has to be July 1st.
Well,
A different day.
that would be the fairest.
Could be for a third of the year instead of half. the year.
Well, here's the thing, if it wasn't on July 1st, when I think about it from the employee piece, as long as they have an idea that there is some kind of a plan.
Right.
It'll be.
Is it January 1 the plan?
Is it January? Yeah. What would you like it to be? October 1, January 1?
I'd like it to be at least in 2023, so that at least they feel like they're valued, as compared to one department that gets it in July 1st. I don't feel, I mean, and I'm not trying to be disrespectful of you guys at all. I just think we got to give them something before January 1st. Seems like forever, because it's going to be another 6-month span. Let's do something within that 6-month span. And I've been the one driving at this the whole time. I get it. But when you have to make decisions about, you know, we're adding buildings, we're doing whatever, and you as an employee, whether you're an entry-level employee, you've been there for a while, quite honestly, it just doesn't seem like we really value, oh yeah, we value one part of our employees, but not everybody else. And that's everybody. I don't care from A to Z to whatever. I just think that we need to do something instead of, oh, we need to think about it. Oh, we even have $1.4 million sitting here, but we won't spend it on them. You guys are important, but oh, somebody needs a car, somebody needs a truck, somebody needs Tahoes. You know, that's a huge dollar amount. And I just feel really, really bad to our employees that we're not willing to invest free money that we got from the federal government, and yet we're tossing it around. We cannot continue to toss this around. We need to value our staff. And I'm not trying to be cranky about this, but I know it's one-time money, but let's do one thing good for the rest of our employees.
Commissioner Russ,
Everything, you know, everything is going up, groceries, gas, you name it.
I think it's reasonable to expect it July 1st.
Yeah. What?
That's 2 days, so that's a Saturday. I mean, it's literally one business day to even push it.
Would we be able to do something October 1st if we choose to do that? Because by that time, we've got the budget figured out and we could still do something with the
Well, see, that affects the budget if you decide after the budget's done, because you're increasing their pay in 2023 and that goes into 2024. And
August
so now
1st.
then the cost for 2024 is greater.
Yes.
For what we can.
August 1st.
I would agree with August 1st.
What?
August 1st.
Well, that doesn't
Doesn't
help.
change a lot of
No, but I mean,
dollars.
like Debbie says, the budget would be set and then.
Right, you'd kind of have to decide, what are you gonna look at? Are you gonna look at the whole plan and pick a date to put it into effect? Do you want to do the 5% pay scale increase in 23? And then well, we still have the regraded, see, it's a complicated animal because we still have the regraded positions, and we have those that are out of market.
I call it the 3-prong thing. It all have to be connected for it
So what's the easiest?
If we had to pick one.
January 1 is the easiest?
I've always been in favor of January, and I think you just reiterated that at least the employees would know this is the
It is
date
coming.
that
I
it is
think
coming.
It's not ideal. I would advocate if there was any way we could do something in 2023, that's definitely my first choice.
Yeah.
However, if
Well, what about a
if we're
bonus?
able to look at the plan that we've presented, if that was a possibility for January 1st,
What about a bonus?
communicate it out that there is something January 1st
It's coming.
that, and that it's approved, not that we'll.
You gotta wait till the
consider it. Yeah.
preliminary budget gets approved before
Right.
you put that out.
Oh, right, exactly.
Couldn't you just, when you approve the preliminary budget in the second meeting in July, maybe, just also approve the expenditure of CARES dollars for the 2024 plan to start August 1st, and then this year's costs come out of CARES. Next year's costs
And
is
it'll be
worked into
greater
the
because
budget.
now we've increased their pay in 2023, so the 2024 cost is greater.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you could
But
do
then
that.
you'd
could do
know during the preliminary budget time, and the employees would get it close in time to when the sheriff's department got it.
It just will cost more for the 2024 budget, so. You know,
Yeah, and if, let's say that's what you decided to
looking
do.
at where we're at with the 60 mils, you know, we're getting closer and closer, and
Yeah, I'm
And
will it
concerned
be
about that.
sustainable?
Right, and if, let's say that's the way it happened, the way Haley's talking, then the decision is, the other decision is, do you do a step or a COLA for next year? Because we've got,
I already got steps in there. I
right,
already figured out what everyone who's qualified.
well, I got a step.
What good at step.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair. One of the things we're gonna have to do, and I know that we were very lucky to get the home rule passed, we have to think about into 2024 if we're gonna try to get that vote changed for an additional tax, because that's going to impact people that come into the county to do services, whatever. I think that we need to really try to put a vote in 24, possibly 25, maybe we're limited, but we've got to start looking at a tax, whether it be a hospitality tax or whatever kind of tax. People come into, Grand Forks County, and
Put a sales tax up.
we gotta have a discussion about that.
Well,
So I had
So
the
you had this step in
regraded
there and the regraded, okay.
got a COLA. The out of market did not because they got 12. And then everybody else got 5. That's how I had it in here. You can change it, but that's the way.
So that makes sense to me. Yes, yep.
So when I was saying like the 3 prongs have to work, but they don't always have to like go together, as long as they all get done. So make it whole as for the county. So that's why we hid like one of the 3 forward this year and the other 2 in January, like as long as all 3 prongs get moved, but they don't all have to move at the same time.
The sheriff already moved, so.
No, the 3 that we
They
just.
don't move up at the same time,
No.
that must be okay then.
No, I meant like the 3
Right?
prongs that we.
They don't have to move at the same time.
I was talking about our proposal. There was like 3 components to it.
Okay.
30, right,
Okay.
39 regraded, 112 out of market.
Yeah.
put it all over.
So as long as they all get assigned an effective date, they don't all have to be assigned the effective date.
I have a little bit of good news. The value of the mill went up 7.65%.
That helps.
Yeah, what I reported last time didn't have the centrally assessed properties in there, and that's still an estimate, but it's a closer estimate, and it's 7.65%. So we've got more money to work with. Still not enough, but yeah, more money, not enough. Oh, we got it. I like that.
I'll just add, just to make it more complicated.
Perfect.
So I'll be briefing the commission on the ramp on Wednesday. I don't foresee a deal with the city happening. So you still have some significant repairs on that ramp. So the commission's gonna have to decide what to do with that.
Just love having a ramp.
Like, let's say we had $1 million to do something next year. Would that fix it pretty good?
It would be a good start. So there's what AE2S has recommended is a 2-phase, so 2 construction years for emergency repairs, which in October of 22 was $3.2 million. So that would be spread over 2 years. So $1 million
How
could,
much?
I think it was 3.2 for
Over
those
2
2 years,
years.
just that's for the massive overhaul that it needs. And then it was another 3 million over 18 years.
Can you say, if we had $1 or $1 million, would, and we did these things, it wouldn't fall apart?
Start, I can't tell you that. I've asked Mr. Clemens doing another walkthrough. He's gonna do it pro bono and he's gonna let me know. Yeah.
Yeah, the city said no, they don't want the ramp.
I'll have an email.
You know, in worse shape than they.
I still have Gary Mom's phone number.
Would have loved to have.
So, back at 3?
Yeah, I'm just gonna leave all my stuff here.
Yeah, leave your stuff. Oh my